This is Jocko Podcast, number 40, with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
And the last podcast that we did, I went a little long with the book. The book was Brave Men by a guy named Ernie Pyle. And there was just some incredible writing in there that I just went deep with. Yeah. I read it all. And so we had to postpone the Q&A. So that's okay. Gives us some time here to go a little deep on some Q&A. This is podcast number 40, by the way. 40 weeks straight. Who wants some? 40 weeks straight is where we're at. And that's the battle rhythm here. We put out podcasts and we do it weekly. And we've been doing it for 40 straight weeks. And I dig that.
Yeah, man. It's good.
And it's not always easy. You know, because if you think about the times when you're not doing anything. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're not doing anything, or when I would normally not be doing anything, for 40 weeks, I've been doing something. Yeah. I've been reading. Yeah. I've been prepping. I've been researching. So 40 weeks is legit. And I'm stoked that we're at number 40.
Me too.
And now we get to talk about some questions from the interwebs. So thanks to everybody for giving us the awesome questions through Twitter, through Facebook. It's pretty much where they come from, Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
I guess I get a couple emails. I get texts too from like some of my buddies in the SEAL teams. They'll hit me up with a question here and there. A lot of times I just respond to them. Keep it real. Sometimes I use them.
Sure.
But anyways, yeah, let's get to it.
Let's do it. Okay, Jocko. First question from the vault.
And from the vault, I've got a lot of questions.
Got a big vault.
Sure. And so I was just trying to go through and make sure there wasn't any questions or just reviewing questions that might be good that I missed the first time around. So This one right here is from the vault. It's from an old school. It's an old question.
Yeah, one that you always intended to maybe revisit.
Yes.
And here we go revisiting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let the revisit begin.
Started jiu-jitsu thanks to you. Any tips for complementary exercises, especially for non-athletic civilian? What's the hardest stage of your jiu-jitsu journey?
Yeah, and that's actually was two questions. I combined them into one because they're kind of similar. Mm-hmm. And okay, so jiu-jitsu. One thing that's cool about jiu-jitsu is it's a very well-rounded physical activity, right? You got to have flexibility, you got to have strength, you got to have endurance, you got to be able to recover quickly from fatigue.
Yes.
You got to have some agility, speed, balance, coordination, proprioception. Do you know what proprioception is? Mm-mm. It's knowing where your body is in space.
Sure.
It's a talent that gymnasts have very well.
Yes.
Maybe a dancer has very well. They know where their body is in space.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu demands that you know where your body is at all times. So that's the stuff that you need to work on, all those things. Because jiu-jitsu is a unique test of all those things. It's a test of your strength. It's a test of your flexibility. It's a test of your endurance. It's a test of your ability to recover. It's a test of your agility. It's a test of your speed, of your coordination. It's a test of all those things. And so that makes it a really good sport to practice, in my opinion. So, what do you need to do? Well, what you need to do to train them is you need to train all those things. You know, so for flexibility, I personally like the mobility wad. I think that's excellent. You know, but get some kind of stretching protocol. Gymnastics types movements. There's gymnastic bodies, which is a ridiculously good protocol you can go on. It's an internet thing, gymnasticsbodies.com.
And what is that, like a workout?
Yeah, it's a
Thing,
workout.
like a
It's
routine.
flexibility.
Yeah.
It's hardcore. It's hardcore. But that's really good. You know, you'll get your flexibility. You get all kinds of stuff from that. But so you got to be flexible. You got to work on your flexibility. So what are you going to do? Like I said, you're going to do mobility water, some kind of stretching protocol so you get limber. You got to work on your strength. So what do you do? Work on strength? Olympic lifting. What is that? Clean and jerk, snatches. That brings in things like cleans by themselves, you know, presses and hang cleans and all that. And then on top of that, for strength, you also have the simple movements, the deadlift, the squat, the front squat, the overhead squat. And also for strength, you can go back to gymnastics again. Go back to those gymnastics movements and basic calisthenics. Pull-ups, push-ups, dips, squats, flutter kicks, that whole 9 yards. Now you got to have endurance, right? So what do you do for endurance? You can see where this is heading. For endurance, what do you got to do? Run, swim, bike, some kind of Metcon. I like the Metcon personally for my cardiovascular endurance and recovery and whatnot. You know, so yes, you can add running and sprinting into those. You can sprint swimming. You can sprint on a bike. You can use kettlebells to work your Metcon scenario. You can actually use barbells to do Metcons. You know, do a bunch of cleans, and you will get tired.
Yeah.
And then with that, when you work on your endurance, that thereby improves your recovery. And so that's going to help you there. Then you have agility, and for agility, what do? Do some sports, some cross training of sports. I personally like to surf, but you know, it's not just that. It's basketball. It's go play soccer, go huck a baseball, whatever, so that you work on your agility. Then you get your speed. And I already talked about this. You got your running, your sprinting, the air bike or whatever. The proprioception, the gymnastics, the movement type things where you're holding your body in space. So that's a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of stuff. And you pile all that together and you got a lot of varied activity. And what's nice about that is when people talk about getting burnt out, I'm like, I never get burnt out on working out. Mm-hmm. I got 97 different base exercises that I can use. I'm not going to get burned out. Mm-hmm. So, and what's fun is you jump into these challenges, like, or you find something that's challenging that you can't do, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to see what I can get my weight up to on this. I'm going to see if I can do this movement in gymnastics. I'm going to see if I can do this many pull-ups or whatever. You keep continually varying and heading in a different direction. And I think when you combine all those things together and you become a well-rounded athlete, that is what will help you the most with the jiu-jitsu.
Well,
but I don't think there's one exercise like, hey, this will help you in jiu-jitsu. Although the clean and jerk is pretty good.
Yeah, and anything with like your body weight. So, because like in jiu-jitsu, when you're doing jiu-jitsu, that's mainly what it is. Sure, there are elements where you're trying to control someone else's body weight, but it's mainly what you're doing with your body. So, like when you do, you know, like those when you climb up. Like,
the pegboard.
Yes, yeah, like that kind of stuff. Bars, all the gymnastic stuff. Mm-hmm. And then as far as like being strong in these weird ways, because that's essentially what you're going to be doing in jiu-jitsu, you know? There is
in jiu-jitsu, oftentimes you're moving someone else's weight too.
Yeah.
In guys that are super explosive, that's a different thing to deal with. And it's a good trait to have, to be super explosive.
Yes, for sure. So you combine that with like when you shrimp out someone, right? Yep. Sure, someone's gonna be strong holding you, but when you shrimp, you're pushing your own body weight. That's your own body weight. Sure, you add his own. You're with the guy. That's just kind of part of the game. But if you can control your own body in these stronger ways, that's gonna give like such a big benefit. So, and then to your Olympic lifting, to me, that's, in my opinion, that's probably one of the best ones, Olympic. And this is why. Not only do you get that little explosive movements in there, but when you put Olympic lifting to make up your Metcon, when you do like a clean
Yeah.
and press, right? Your muscle work is just for a second, and then for a second it's almost kind of relaxed, and then boom again, and then it's kind of relaxed, and then you hold, and boom, and it's just repetitive.
That feels like jiu-jitsu to you.
That's kind of what jiu-jitsu can be, depending on your game.
Yeah, it can
of
be
course,
very much
you know?
that.
Yeah. So, and if you're in shape in that way, where you can go hard, rest for just a little bit, and then go hard again, if you can do that, if you're in that kind of shape, that's gonna help. So when you do a Metcon or circuit training, something like that, where if you can do the exercise, dynamic rest, like active rest, where you're walking or even jogging, kind of, that's what jiu-jitsu is. It's like work, and because you're never really just laying there.
Yeah, no.
Do that kind of thing, and do it in like rounds. If you're into like a 10-minute round in jiu-jitsu and that's really your thing, then do your circuit training 10-minute rounds. It'll help. It'll get you kind of aware of like, okay, I'm this tired, I gotta manage, all this stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think Metcon, swimming, bro. If you do swimming sprints, because it's like your whole body,
Especially the less comfortable you are in the water, the more those swimming things are gonna be challenging for you.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of Olympic lift, do you know Mo Lawal?
Yeah.
Have you ever trained with him?
No.
So Mo Lawal, if for those of you listening that don't know who Mo is, he's a really incredibly good wrestler. He wrestled in college, and he is he didn't make the Olympic teams, but he was like in second. He almost made the Olympic team, but he's a big guy, so he's like 205 pounds, and I think he is the most explosive person I've ever trained with. And I've trained with some unbelievably incredibly explosive people, and you'll find that if anybody wrestled on a high level, like if they were a high level college wrestler, there's a likely chance that they're very explosive.
Yeah.
They're very explosive.
Very likely, yeah.
And Mo is explosive to a crazy level. But the reason that I thought of it when you said Olympic lifts is one time he was just trying to help me with some takedowns, and the way he was exploding into him,
right.
and he was all fired up. He's like, it's like when you do a clean and jerk. He goes, this right here is the beginning of it, and you could see that he's developing so much explosiveness. The first time I ever trained with him, Dean, I can never read Dean with when he sets me to train with somebody. He doesn't give me a heads up. Like if I were going to tell you, if there was let's say there was a guy that was a really good wrestler, and I go, hey, Echo, train with this guy over here. Hey, he's a really good wrestler. And if I might even say, hey man, he's a really good wrestler, and he's got a sick guillotine. So you're like thinking about it, right? I'll give you a little heads up. Dean just goes, hey, you should train with him, right? That's what Dean does. And so, anyways, he did tell me on this occasion, he goes, hey, Mo's coming down. You got to train with him. He's a really sick wrestler. And I go, awesome. I'm thinking to myself, oh, cool. I actually, for a guy that didn't wrestle in high school, I have decent takedown defense because I've been defending takedowns for a long time, and I utilize jiu-jitsu to defend my takedowns. So I'm sprawling and guillotining and going for commuters. I'm doing active, aggressive jiu-jitsu moves to people when they're trying to take me down. So I'm not trying to say I have any major skills there, but I'm not a slouch to take down. So I figured, hey, I got a good wrestler, cool. And he wasn't that experienced in jiu-jitsu, which tells you, okay, cool. Right. You're going to guillotine this guy. This isn't, or you at least have a good chance or whatever.
That's what you're thinking. So, sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. So I meet Mo, and good dude, we're going over some moves, and then it's like time to train. And Dean's like, okay, yeah, you train with him, Jocko. And I go, okay, cool. So, we slap hands, and we're doing and Mo was getting ready for a fight, but we weren't fighting at all. We were just...
And just to kind of put in context, you say Mo's a good wrestler. Mo also happens to be the Bellator 205 champ, or was he the champ? Or
he wasn't at this time. This was like as he was getting into MMA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was really actually probably sharper at wrestling at this time because he was coming out of trying to be on the Olympics.
Yeah.
And he wrestled. I want to say he wrestled at Oklahoma, but anyways, King Mo is what he's known as. King Mo. And so. Anyway, so we slap hands. We're getting ready. We kind of square off, and I'm okay, doing my thing. boom. He does this takedown to me. His face hits me in the chest. And this is in the less than the blink of an eye. His face hits me in the chest, and his hands, they don't even grab my legs. They just tap my legs like a double leg.
Blast double.
And it's a blast double, and I'm in the air. He knocked me into the air with his face.
Bro, that's saying a lot because you're huge.
Yeah, he knocked me into the air with his face. I fall down to the ground, and the funny thing was, I got back up immediately. Like he took me down so fast he couldn't even chase me to the ground because I was back up really quickly. But that was the fastest takedown that I'd felt. That is probably the fastest takedown. Now we have one more guy. There's a guy coming up right now at the gym. Another sick wrestler. But, he wrestled. He's a really good wrestler, a sick wrestler, collegiate wrestler, and all that. Taylor Johnson. So Taylor is another guy who has mutant strength. He has mutant strength. It's not normal.
Yeah.
I was on Taylor, and I was going for like a guillotine, or I think I was actually going for a crucifix. So for those of you that don't know what this is, Taylor, picture a guy on all fours on the ground, and someone else is trying to rip their head off. Okay, so that's Taylor. He's on all fours on the ground, and I'm trying to guillotine him, rip his head off. With one hand, he goes up to his knees and lifts me into the air and shot puts me through the air onto the ground, and then gets across side. And I started laughing. I'm like, bro, you just shot put me. And he didn't even do it from his hips. Like, he didn't get the strength from his hips. He got it from his upper torso.
Yeah.
He didn't use his legs at all. It was no legs because he was on his knees.
Yep.
And so he just has this massive explosiveness. But then the thing that's really scary about Taylor is that he's adapting. Because just because you're a good wrestler doesn't mean you automatically adapt well to jiu-jitsu. Yep. Some people never adapt really well to jiu-jitsu. And you can see, in MMA, in the UFC, there's plenty of wrestlers that you look at and you go, yeah, that guy never really transitioned into become a comprehensive ground fighter that was as comfortable on his back as he is on cross-side, as he is going for submissions. There's some guys that have been extremely successful that never made that transition, but they stay on top, ground and pound. Taylor, if you watch him roll, you might not even know he was a wrestler until you roll with him, and then you're going to feel that you can't move him. But if you just watch him roll, you're like, oh, wow, he's going for, advanced jiu-jitsu moves. And by the way, been training for less than a year.
Yeah, very surprising with him in regards to that. Like, you look at him, if you look at him, you're like, okay, I'm about to roll with this guy, and then you roll with him, you're going to be like, okay, I'm not surprised at this guy's strong. His balance is just like magical balance kind of thing. So when you look at him, on the surface, but if you know that he's such an accomplished wrestler, you would think, given his experience, you'd think, okay, his jiu-jitsu, or even his, like, when he's training his jiu-jitsu, you wouldn't expect it to be that fluid. Like, when I rolled with him, I was like, I thought when you were like, yeah, he's kind of this new guy, you haven't rolled with him, you should roll with him because, he gives good training. He's really good. So what I'm thinking is good, but I'm thinking this is going to be real wrestling intensive. Yeah. Training scenario.
Then he pulled guard on you.
No, he didn't pull guard, but his whole thing. Yeah. He was in the guard.
He doesn't care.
He was like, I'm here to train. I'm here to get good or whatever, man. And that kind of attitude, it gets humble. You so good. And he wasn't trying to, like, okay, another big guy, let me, like, wrestle this guy. We were doing straight up jiu-jitsu, and it was clean. It was good.
Yeah, but anyways, he's got that super explosiveness too. That's mutant level, and also his striking. Yeah, is ridiculous. And he hasn't been known. He's just a natural athlete because he's been just. Yep. Anyways, so that's him, and we got a bunch of other pipe hitters too. You got Big Andy, who's awesome. Yeah. Justin, don't forget about Justin. Jordan just showed up, so we got some good training in there. Yeah, for sure. But back to this deal. So I was talking to Taylor about, and I go, bro, did you ever like Olympic lift? And he goes, yeah, I got into CrossFit for like a month. and that was right before I got into MMA, and I was doing pretty good. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? He's like, oh, I was snatching like 300. I was like, what?
And they invited me to the CrossFit Games.
He did CrossFit for a month and never snatched before, and all of a sudden he's snatching almost 300 pounds. That's insane.
Yeah.
So, but that's what it feels like when you roll with somebody that has that kind of explosive strength. It's very, very, it's a very good tool to have. Yeah. Now we could go through the entire list of body types, strengths and weaknesses, because you get the lanky people that are strong and wiry, like Higgs. You rolled with Higgs before, right?
No.
Yeah. Higgs is lanky, wiry, skinny. When he puts a triangle on you, it starts to cut into your body because he's all, Comprido's like that. Comprido's just like the length. Like how can you sweep him when his arm is basing like 8 feet over there is where he's basing. So you get that kind of body. Then you get the real like the stocky, people with no limbs sticking out,
right?
Can't really choke them. Yeah, you can't. It's hard to choke them. So, anyways, we could go through every body style, and each one of them has an advantage. But the thing that's cool about explosiveness is something you can somewhat train, right? You can somewhat train. Now you're not going to be able to naturally get as explosive as Mo Lawal or as Taylor Johnson, but you can get stronger. Right? You can get stronger. So, but the other thing is, where can you defeat them? Where can you be better than them? Maybe you can be more flexible than them. Maybe you can be faster on a scramble. Maybe you can be heavier and tighter. So there's some athletic things that you could try and improve to overcome and negate some of their advantages. Hard to do. You get some people that are mutants. Dean's big and flexible, right? Dean is big and strong. It's shockingly flexible. Glover is so flexible that, you have to negate that. And Glover, he loves training with big muscle bound guys. Yeah. That's like an easy day for him. That's what he likes to, that's the easiest matchup body style for him, is someone that's just super strong and muscle bound.
Yeah, and you get mutants like, and I'd say that's kind of a good way of putting it, mutant like Taylor, where he has a wrestling background, so he's no stranger to like functioning while he's tired. So I'd say if you're big, explosive, strong, or whatever, typically your endurance is not that good. Typically. So if you get all those factors and they're flexible and stuff, and they have endurance, there's your bad day right there. If this guy has that. So other than that, if you take one or two different attributes, you can always find, it's like rock, paper, scissors. You can always find one that can, if you just employ this strategy, it'll give you more of an advantage.
And because I always like to tie this together to leadership. So it's the same thing with leadership and because people ask me all the time, are leaders born or made? Or, can you develop a leader? Everybody is born with certain leadership characteristics. It's just like a video game where they rank your strength and your intelligence and your agility and all the stuff that we just talked about. People have that for their leadership capability as well, right? Are they articulate? Because some people are articulate, and that is a good advantage to have. Can you read people well? Well, that's another thing that some people are naturally good at. Can you simplify things? That's a talent that some people have. Now, you could go on this list, but what you find is that some people are gifted and they have really strong leadership characteristics, leadership traits. Yeah. And that's great. And then you get some people that don't have those. And so what do you got to do? It's the same thing that I have to do in my jiu-jitsu game. How do you develop those things? How do you become more articulate? How do you simplify things? How do you recognize that you are a person that makes things more complex? And how do you focus on making things simplified? So you just go right down the list. So yes, you can be born with some natural leadership characteristics, but if you're not born with them, how do you develop them? It's usually these things aren't that hard to develop either. Yeah. So when you have weaknesses, identify them, be humble enough to identify them, and then see how you can improve upon them. And although they may never become your staple of your game, either as a leader or a jiu-jitsu player or anything else, they can become, it's not something you have to protect. It's not something you have to worry about.
Yeah. yeah, you can kind of function in those little regards now.
Yes,
you know,
you can become functional.
Yeah.
And for instance, if you're not the most articulate person, well, number one, you can study, you can listen to people speak, you can record yourself speaking, you can video yourself, so you can practice and become more and more articulate. And that means, oh, guess what? I'm not very articulate, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to plan more before I go and brief people.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through exactly what I'm going to say. I might even rehearse it 2 times. Then I'm going to sound articulate. So you're going to make up for those problems. And that's all you have to do is figure out how you can make up, or how you can get rid of, or how you can mitigate some of those weaknesses that you have. The other thing you could do is you surround yourself with somebody that's super articulate. Echo, you're more articulate than me? Cool, I want you to put out the word to the troops. Boom, done. Mm-hmm. Even though I might be in charge, I'll say, all right, hey, Echo's going to brief this operation, or Echo's going to brief this strategy, and then boom, Mr. Articulate Echo gets up there and does it.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best example, but that's what you do. That's how you want to... That's how you fill in the holes in your leadership game.
Yeah.
And by the way, you'll never have the ability to do that if you're not humble enough to admit where you have weaknesses and that they're there.
Yeah, totally true. And I know you back to the jiu-jitsu real quick. I know you were saying all these things kind of with the given that really the main thing to train is how much you know jiu-jitsu. That's really kind of the main thing.
That is the main thing.
Yeah, the number one thing. So that's all. It's like I said, a given, because the question is supplemental stuff for sure. So let's say all these little comparisons, like, you know, the to me, aside from knowing jiu-jitsu, that's the main strength or whatever. If everyone's even, to me, the taller guy has the advantage. That, to me, that's the most effective advantage that I've seen.
It's interesting that you think that.
Yeah,
I don't think I necessarily agree with you. What a very tall, very lanky guy will have is a body type that you come across the least. Mm-hmm. So since you are coming across this body type the least,
you get the less training.
You have the least training against it. And since you have less training against it, you don't know how to react to it. And by the way, they constantly work on their strange body style, because you are correct in the fact that the lanky body style gives you more moves, more unique moves than any other body style. So there's there's more unique moves that only are utilized or can be utilized by a tall, lanky person than there are than any other body style.
Right. And also, you can I'm not saying he's 7 feet tall. I'm saying like the whole 6'1" up to like 6'5".
6'1" doesn't do it. To me, well, 6'1" can do it if the person's
that's like
lanky.
the beginning
of it. Yeah. But how tall? Like, we have stilts appropriately named at the gym, and he's tall, and like I think he's 6'5", but he has really developed the lanky guy style that people aren't used to. And it's a challenge for anybody.
Yeah, so Stilt's a good example where, in this case, where he's a little bit different, because Stilt's has a lanky body style, but he's going pretty hard in that direction, where he's actually practicing moves that only he can do, kind of thing. So
that's exactly the point I'm making.
Right. So my point.
Whereas most normal body styles, everybody that's 5'3" to 6'0", they all have pretty much the same moves.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about them. I think there's that, but those are the kind of the outliers that I think overall. I mean, everyone plays their strengths in one way or another, but I'm saying just all things being equal. So, like, let's say all 3 Gracie brothers, Hodger Gracie, even these guys who are tall. These are like 6'3", 6'4", 5 type guys. We'll take Hodger, for example. He doesn't really do any kind of crazy, I am tall, so I can only do this.
True.
He doesn't do that. He does more, but his just mount, for example, or his armbar setup from the bottom or try from the bottom stuff is just way harder to deal with, because he developed such a good base, on top of the fact that physically he's made for such a good base, and here's the thing about tall guys in general, they're not limited to the moves they can do more or less all the moves. So like a guy who's 5'3", 250, or not 5'3", we'll say 5'3", 220,
but
he's gonna have a hard time.
Just say 5'8".
Sure, 230, whatever, we'll just say that's a stocky buff guy. He's going to have a hard time doing triangle chokes on guys his own size. In his weight division, he
Probably
chances
can't
are
do
him.
it.
Yeah, that's a triangle's a
It's a major
benchmark
part of the game.
move. Yes,
You can't do it.
yeah. Tall guys don't have that problem. They
Yeah.
can do all the moves. They can
Yeah.
do chokes, arm bars, whatever, and they can
That's
do it pretty easy. You know, so like I said, that's why I think, and of course the flexible, tall, lanky guys, they do have that, but I think we all do. I think
All do what?
Have like our body style.
Yeah,
will give
yeah.
us special moves only we can do.
Yeah,
even if you're
but
short and stocky.
The
and
list
all
of
that.
moves, list of special moves that I can do with my body style is like 2.
Yeah.
And the list that Stilts can do with his
Yeah.
body style is infinite.
Stilts has 2 things though. He has tall and lanky, and he has flexible.
And flexible,
Okay,
yes.
so yeah, so that's like he has double the
Yeah,
thing.
double
But I
whammy.
think the tall has the most in their bucket. I think.
They definitely have the most options
Yeah.
of moves that other humans can't do.
Yeah, but again, the main thing is to know.
The main thing is to know
Jiu-jitsu,
jiu-jitsu,
you
for
know?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. That is the amazing thing.
The number. Yeah.
And then the other part of this question was, what was the hardest stage of your jiu-jitsu journey?
Me, I would say the whole thing, just in completely different ways. Like the first part is like, dang, you get tired way too quick, and guys who are way smaller than you, way whatever than you are beating you up, and that kind of thing.
Beating you up with no factor whatsoever.
Yeah. And they're like teaching you, hey, this is what you did wrong, and you're sitting there all. But well, I mean, in my case, I was like 225 when I started, and I'm like sitting there, and this little guy, I don't know if you remember George, but he was a little purple belt that I was rolling with a lot. He taught me butterfly guard.
Oh, yeah.
He's teaching me stuff. I'm still sitting there with my big muscles, and he's like teaching me stuff. So that can be hard, I guess, and getting tired. But I think, and then yeah, you go up blue belt. In my particular experience, blue belt was the easiest, I think, because nothing really was expected of me.
Oh,
and
yeah. Blue belt's a good place to hide.
At the same time, in a way, some people it's the most frustrating.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
If you're like
right. Blue belt, you're good. You're a blue belt, so people know that you know jiu-jitsu a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're not expected to tap anybody.
No, yeah.
And if you get tapped out by another blue belt, or a purple belt, or a brown belt, or a black belt, it's no big deal.
Yeah, you're a blue belt.
And even a white belt taps you, and you're like, yeah, that shouldn't happen. But
yeah, I have so much to learn. Yeah, totally. And yeah, that and you know how when you learn something from the point of not knowing anything, and then you start to learn, you learn the most quantity wise at the bottom when you start.
For sure.
So. And that's a philosophical way of putting it's a specific way of putting it.
I don't know.
Philosophically.
I think there's some stages in the mid levels where your mind starts to fill up, and you start to be able to really absorb stuff.
True.
Big giant things.
Right, but as far as jiu-jitsu, it's totally true, and that's what I mean by like that's a way of putting it, maybe philosophically.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it's because when you're, I mean, quantity-wise, meaning learning the moves in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
At like black belt, unless there's these weird special moves that are coming out or whatever, all the moves, all this stuff. It's about other stuff. You got to learn other stuff, timing, approaches, and all this more like interstitial stuff. But from a blue belt, you still there's moves you just don't know as a blue belt. So,
For sure.
So you learn way quicker if you're interested. So you're like, oh, I have no answer to this guard pass. I have no answer. I'm a blue belt. Literally no answer to this guard pass. Someone can show you, oh, this is how you do it. You just block the wrist area, and you're like, oh, I automatically know. So you just learn more. So in my experience, so I didn't think blue belt was very frustrating at all, and I didn't spend much time at blue belt. And then when you hit purple belt, that's when the learning frustration hits, because you're good enough, and you kind of have this weird confidence that's developed, and then you're doing so well against all these guys, and you just hit that one level up where you can't do nothing against nobody, and you're just there for a long time. Because it's almost like you got to switch over to learning different types of things now.
Yeah, you got to open your brain up, open your mind up, and open your game up, and you got to be vulnerable. You're not going to learn without making yourself vulnerable from time to time.
Yeah.
And, and again, there's a good parallel here with learning about leadership. I think it's the same thing. You come into a leadership position for the first time, and it doesn't take long before you're like, okay, I kind of got this. And that's like your blue belt phase where you start feeling like, and then the more people you get to command, or the senior leadership positions you get put into, or the harder situations you get put into, you realize that all you got to continue to exercise your mind. You got to continue to grow. You got to continue to try and absorb new information and try new strategies and tactics and still stick with the fundamentals. Because that's one thing that, the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, they're fundamentally the same from white belt to black belt. And yet they change, and there's times you break those rules, and they're nuanced, and it's the same thing with being in a leadership position. The fundamentals don't change, but then how are those fundamental principles nuanced to handle these different situations? Yeah, very challenging.
Yep. Yeah, and then it's true. And brown belt to me is more the same as purple belt, but just more like refined. So it's like less of the frustration, but the frustration becomes like more concentrated.
You know what's crazy for me, and I don't know if this is just, when you remember back in the past, like you forget the bad stuff of the past.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Doesn't everyone do that?
Depends how bad, but yeah. I mean, I know
people
that.
Say, when we were in high school, everything was great, right? Or hey, when we went to college, everything was great. Or in the SEAL teams, we go, that deployment was great. We forget about all the hard stuff on a deployment or any one that was bad or whatever didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I don't know if it's that, but when I talk about the hardest stage of my jiu-jitsu journey, it's one big blur of fun. It's like there's nothing where I think back, wow, I was frustrated this time. No, man, I never had that feeling. I go home from the gym every time kind of like, good day of training, but that was fun. Yeah. Oh, that was cool that I learned this. Or, man, I can't believe I got caught by that guy. He's getting good or whatever, You just kind of... I don't have like these hard stages to me. Yeah. Maybe I'm just a person that really enjoys it a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and I would say that's most people. I
think so too.
I think I'm the same boat, and
But you use the term frustration a lot. And I've actually, I don't want to bring this out in the public audience, but I factually have seen you get frustrated from time to time.
Well, those are like
and you have a funny way of getting frustrated
too. I seen the same thing with you.
When?
Oh, you want me to say? Okay. One time you were rolling with Dean, and Dean had you. You know how like Dean will get ahead of you psychologically, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah," and he'll like be baiting you and laughing and stuff. And then the more he laughs, the less you laugh. So you're getting really mad. And I remember he was doing this thing where you guys stood up, and you were like you were just tired of what's going on. You were tired of it, and you were turning up the heat. And Dean was just like, "Okay," and then he like, "Okay, this is what he did. He leaned against the wall." Kind of like, you can't take me down. I'm against the wall. And you engaged or whatever. You guys went down, and he got you. I think he got you with armbar. And I remember it was an armbar because I remember thinking, I don't think I've ever seen Jocko A get tapped out, B with an armbar. I can see like a foot lock, someone jumped in, but he got you with an armbar, and you were like, ah! You were frustrated.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that was like what we could call a micro frustration. Overall, these are more like little challenges.
Weird, so that frustration though, is it possible for it to be called frustration if it brings me joy? Is it possible? Because sure. I even in the depths of like frustration, man, I feel good even getting tapped out.
Yeah, especially when you can reflect on it. And that's why I think you said when you said you forget about the bad things. You forget about the bad things in a certain kind of discourse. If you regard that overall discourse as being a good thing, then you'll start to forget the bad thing. Yes. And vice versa.
But I never go home and say, like, oh man, I can't believe that I couldn't get out of there. I just couldn't do anything. At least I don't remember.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta have that feeling in there somewhere.
Yeah, it has to be. And really what they are just the challenges that are specific to certain stages. And these are real general things that probably apply to, to everybody in one way or another on the stages.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with leadership. Like most of the time, even though I've been in some situations where I was like, man, I didn't do a good job there. I could have done better. Normally I'm not frustrated, or I was working for somebody that wasn't letting me do what I wanted to do, and I had more maneuvering to do to get where I needed to be. Yeah. Didn't get frustrated. I enjoy that game. I enjoy that game. Yeah.
Micro frustrations.
Yeah.
They're like micro tears in your muscle. You feel them, but they're all for like benefit for overall muscle growth. Stronger in the long run. They're not injuries. Exactly.
Awesome.
Next question.
Next question.
Jocko, you've talked about how getting into adversarial relationships is pointless, but people always get into adversarial relationships with me. I've been told I'm scary before, but never understood why. My question is, how do I maneuver on this without acting like a little weakling? Bitch, for lack of a better term. To appear less threatening. Do I just accept that I rub people the wrong way?
So, this is a question that I'll do my best to answer because it's definitely time for some self-awareness here for the individual asking this question. It sounds like you are, a big abrasive person that is aggressive and intimidates people. And I know what it's like to be that person because I could come across as intimidating. I know that. I can definitely come across as aggressive. I can be aggressive. I am aggressive in many ways. Abrasive, I don't know that necessarily categorizes me because I'm very cautious about not being abrasive. Because if I'm being abrasive with people, am I building a relationship and making any progress? The answer is obviously no. So the thing is, when I hear this type of question, I think that there's some little bit of insecurity going on here, right? Some little bit of, hey, that's not an insult. Mm-hmm. That's what I sense. Because everyone's got insecurities. I do. Everybody does. But the fact that you asked this question, I'm hoping that means you want to make some kind of improvement, right? You want to get better. And, I'm a little worried that you might just be looking for like reinforcement because people think Jocko's big and aggressive. So if I say I'm big and aggressive, Jocko's just going to say, hey, those people are just scared of you and they don't deserve your mercy. Yeah. Or, you know what you do? You use your intimidation factor to overrun those people, right? That might be what you're looking for, but you're not going to get that here. And the reason you're not going to get that here is because that's not going to help you. It's not going to help you achieve your goals. And you talk about people being scared of you, but the fact likely is that you're the one that's scared. And you actually said it yourself that you don't want to appear to be weak. Mm-hmm. You don't want to appear to be a bitch, right? Bitch. Yep. That feeling, that's fear. That's fear. It's fear of looking weak. It's fear of looking wrong. It's fear of failure, and it's fear of vulnerability. And those are real. Those are real. And if you're, everybody should be feeling those fears at some level, but you have to overcome those fears. If you don't, then how are you ever going to step up? If you're too afraid to be wrong, how are you ever going to answer a question? Mm-hmm. If you're too afraid to look weak, how are you ever going to expose any weaknesses? And if you don't expose any weaknesses, well, just build a bunker around yourself and sit in there by yourself. Yeah. So as a leader, we know that up and down the chain of command, you need to develop relationships, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That means you need to communicate with people. That means you need to talk and you need to listen and you need to develop trust. And one of the best ways to develop trust with other people is by exposing some vulnerability. By saying, hey, Echo, I'm not quite sure how to do this. Or, hey, Echo, hey, can you help me with this issue I have going on here? I don't know how to solve it. That's ways that you build trust and thereby build relationships. And it's hard to do that because you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to look weak. You don't want to admit you don't know something because you want to be Mr. Strong and know everything. And so you're probably putting up a front, an aggressive front, an abrasive front. It's a wall to keep people intimidated. And then in your mind, you think it's not my fault, it's their fault. Because they're scared of me. It's their fault because I'm so intimidating. So that is not good. And then you get your kind of closing statement. Should you just accept that I rub people the wrong way? You can. You can accept that you rub people the wrong way, but then you might as well accept right then and there that you're never going to be a true leader. that you're never going to build any relationships, that you're never going to inspire anybody, and you're never going to be the leader of a badass, unified, high-performing team. Probably not worth it. And the better thing to do is to humble yourself, is to open yourself up to the pain and the discomfort of displaying weakness and error and failure. And open yourself up to try and be nice to other people. Instead of being scared of what's going to happen if you expose yourself, go ahead and throw it out there. Yeah. Act pleasant to them so they talk to you without fear. And in doing those things, you can overcome whatever these insecurities are. And I don't know what insecurities you have. It could be any number of things. Maybe you don't think you're as smart as they are. Maybe you don't think you're as well educated as they are. Maybe you don't think that you have the strategic vision that they have. Whatever those insecurities are, it's all good. We all got them. No big deal. But if you stop hiding them and you own them, you will become not only a better leader, but you'll become a better man. So, take a breath and get humble. And take another crack at this gig.
I think losing your temper is a huge red flag. Like I've always said and always will say. Huge red flag. If you ever lose your temper. And I'm not saying scream and yell. I'm just saying you're getting mad and displaying that anger.
Well, what's really bad is when people utilize their temper as a tool to scare and intimidate people. Yeah. So they go, oh man, I don't want to say anything to Jocko on this because he's going to lose his temper, lose his mind, go crazy. Mm-hmm. Like that. That's me using it as a tool, which is not good because you're not building any relationships. You're not getting any input from people. You're not respected, by the way. People might fear you if you have a bad temper, but they don't respect you. Yeah. They're not calling you up and asking you for advice. Yeah. They're not wanting you to run their project.
Yeah.
No.
And they're not motivated to do good by you when you're not around.
They are definitely not motivated to do good by you when you're not around. In fact, the only reason they do anything is out of fear.
Yep.
Whereas if you have a relationship with them, you could leave for 6 months. And the people that know you and respect you and care about you and have a relationship, they're still busting their ass to do the best they can for you.
Yep. Glad when you come back too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, so the adversarial relationship thing, a way to look at it is it kind of takes both you to kind of cultivate an adversarial relationship. Goes for any kind of relationship, I'd say.
No, yes and no.
Well, okay. So here, you keep being a dick to me, we'll say. And if I just keep being nice to you, even though you're being a dick to me, even though we have a job to do with it, yes, all that, and we're maintaining the integrity of that, but I'm keep being nice to you. You keep being a dick to me, I keep being nice to you. After a while, the way that shakes itself out is I'm being nice, the
I
next
just become the dominator.
No, well, here's the thing. We're still getting the job done or whatever, but my response to you, if you be a dick to me, is not be a dick back. Or defend, it's just be nice.
So where are you going to say it shakes out?
As it shakes out, the one guy who's a dick stands out. So everyone's being cool, and when all is said and done, we're just dealing with one guy who's a dick. So if you cultivate the adversarial relationship, it's like, okay, you have this competitive situation. Yeah. Now two people, are a dick.
Two guys that are jerks.
Yeah.
That's what you end up with.
Yeah, and let's say you were a nice guy to begin with. Don't become a jerk now,
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So, and I'm saying that because a lot of times if you're like, hey, people are creating adversarial relationships with me, you're going to play a part in that relationship,
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing with this question, and, even the terminology used, which is, how do I maneuver on this without acting like a little bitch?
Yeah.
Literally. So you got to figure not not the most mature person. So I'm guessing, hey man, you're probably 22, 24, something like that, or you haven't matured a lot and you're 27, but you're still caught in that game. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times, people when they meet me or they learn about me or I show up at their business, they think I'm going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. That's like, we're going to just come in here. And it's always really cool when people go, man, yeah, I didn't think of that. It's, you have this approach that we didn't expect. And I'm like, yeah, and by now most people kind of, at this stage in echelon front, and when I show up somewhere, people have listened to podcasts. They know where I'm coming from now. But, 2 years ago, they expected this big Sergeant Slaughter type thing to go down.
Whip these folks into shape.
Yeah, we're going to whip these people into shape. And my guess is that the individual that asked this question was kind of thinking he would get some moral support from me. Mm. And I'm trying to give him moral support because I want him to be successful, because I want him to go out and dominate in the world. But to go out and dominate in the world, you have to be a chess player, not a checkers player. You gotta think. You gotta use the relationships. You gotta use indirect warfare to go out there and be blunt force trauma on everybody. It'll get you. It'll get you. It'll get you a quarter of the way there, if you're lucky. And then it won't get you the rest of the way. So just it's no big deal, man. You're young. You got some learning to do. That's awesome. I wish I would have been smart enough to ask this question when I was a young, stupid 23-year-old. Yeah. You got some. You're thinking. You recognize that you're in a situation. So all you got to do is just start taking a different approach, a little bit more of an indirect approach, a little bit more of an open mind, a little bit more humility. Don't worry about looking weak. The people that are scared to look weak are the people that are weak. Right. The people that are okay being exposed are the people that are strong. I'm totally comfortable in my leadership capabilities. So when I have an issue, I'm like, hey, I don't feel comfortable about this. I'm not worried that somebody's not going to say like, oh, well, we don't think you can handle this. No. I know I can. Yeah. I've been in worse situations. So what do you got? Yeah. So if you're paranoid about looking weak, it means you probably are weak. If you don't care about looking weak, it probably means that you're coming along. Yep. You're doing pretty good.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
Check.
So you don't need a hard shell if you have a hard core, but you need a hard shell if you have a soft core.
Yes, that is true.
Kind of thing.
Yes. Did you just make that up?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not looking at it like, dang, that was deep. I'm not thinking that. But yes,
but that is a true statement. If you're fundamentally sound on the internal and the meaningful structure of your being, then you can withstand attack. So you don't need to put up a big wall.
Right.
But if you're fundamentally weak internally and the fundamentals of your being are weak, then you need to put up a big wall of protection. You need to go around and bow up to people and
you may even need some weapons out there to really keep them away. Some guns, some heavies or something.
Nice. All right. Good.
Next question. Would love to hear tips for moving to wake up earlier. Alarms and not disturbing your spouse, keeping alert throughout the day. When you wake up early, these are things. So tips for managing the implications around making that change to get up earlier while keeping the space or keeping the peace at home and work and worky. Did you put that?
I did not put that.
Work.
He had some. He either made a typo or he's on the inside with the.
What that is that's an homage to the Portuguese accent.
Yes.
Brazil.
Well, no, it's a homage to the fake Portuguese accent.
No, it's the real one.
Worky?
Yeah. Well, anything adding like E at the end, like it'll come out. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It can be exaggerated though by certain people.
Right.
Myself included.
Yeah.
Okay, so how to wake up in the morning. Number one, let's talk about one important piece. This: how do you do it without disturbing the spouse? Because we don't want to make the spouse angry.
No adversarial relationships with the spouse at 4:30.
No, not at 4:30. So one of the things, real easy one out of the gate, get an escalating alarm. So what that means is it starts off quiet.
Sure.
And it gets louder. It gets progressively louder. I am a much lighter sleeper than my wife. So this is not that big of a deal to me. And I can't answer I've slept with roommates that wanted to sleep. You know, like in the military, you know, you got bunk together or whatever. So I've dealt with this a little bit, but it's really no factor. Get an escalating alarm, and then when that thing goes off, you wake up before it gets too loud to wake your spouse. It should be on your side of the bed so you can make it happen, or you can pick a song that starts off nice and mellow, and that kind of builds. And for a long time, for this particular reason, I used to have. There's a band called The Sword.
Sure.
And they have a song called Iron Swan. And it starts off nice and mellow. And if you don't get up in time, it's coming. So you got to.
So it's like a kind of like a game within the game right there. Where you got to beat the clock too.
Yes. You know? You got to beat the clock. You got to get up and turn that thing. Because otherwise it's and then you're too late.
What is it? Black Swan?
No. Iron Swan.
Iron Swan.
It's The Sword.
By The Sword. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's times in my life where I will put like the ultimate shocker of a tune in my
playlist.
In my playlist that if I need to get up and I need to get up and get on it, like there's a song called Repeat Process by 100 Demons. That song will get you out of bed. It will get you out of bed. When it kicks in, it just comes. It comes. It's like getting. It's like an explosion happens in your room.
There you go.
And it's a great song by a great band. But anyways, but in this case, you don't want to go with 100 Demons.
No.
You don't want to go with Repeat Process. Mm-hmm. You want to go with The Sword, Iron Swan, or an escalating alarm. Now. Once you do that, you got to have the gear pre-staged. The morning gear has to be pre-staged. So, so we're not in the dressing. We're not pulling open drawers. We're not flipping on lights. We're not searching for stuff. No, we get up. We walk out of the room.
Yeah.
Quietly. Stealth mode. Then you get to either the bathroom. Now, if you have the bathroom en suite, maybe you have some stuff staged in the other bathroom in the house. So you just walk right out of the room, shut the door, and you're good. You made your escape.
Yep.
You know, and I'll tell you another thing, little heads up. Make sure that you that you turn off your secondary and your tertiary alarms. So if you're like me and you sleep with multiple alarm clocks, if you leave, because they go off sequentially, right? You know, you got your first one, iPhone, then you got your second one, battery powered, then you got your third one, wind up. The wind up is the gnarly last one with the right?
Right.
If you leave that thing, if you forget to shut that thing off before you walk out, you can hear about it. You can hear about it because now when it goes off, it's a startler because it doesn't go off. I mean, 50% of the time I'm up before the alarms. But if you leave that one on there, it's a startler, and then your spouse is waking up in a panic mode because now they don't know where it is. There's effort. They're being attacked. It's a gnarly situation. So shut off the secondary and tertiary alarms. And then get out of the room. And then, maybe you even have your toothbrush and your toothpaste staged in another bathroom or in the kitchen or whatever. You got your workout gears not in a drawer by the bed where you're pulling that open and making that racket. No, you just get up and you leave. So then that's how you do it. That's how I do it. And again, I have an advantage because my wife is a pretty heavy sleeper. She gets mad that when I come home from a trip late at night, I do some unpacking in the night. That can be a little frustrating for her. But anyways, that's what you do. Now, the next piece of this question was for alertness throughout the day. What do you do to stay alert throughout the day? I think one of the things you got to do is check your diet, right? Check the diet. Make sure, in my opinion, you're not ingesting a ton of carbohydrates. Because those are going to make you tired. They're going to make you excited or make you fired up for about 20 minutes. I don't know. Haven't had them in a long time.
For like 20 minutes before you eat them. Like right when you... Actually, that's really what they're for.
Yeah.
Or like,
instant energy, yeah.
Yeah, so and they put you to sleep. So when you eat it, it's... Basically, the really basic sequence is I'm going to do some output. In the wild, I'm going to go hunting, I'm going to gather, whatever. Do some output. That expended some energy. I'm going to need some energy, and I'm going to need some rest. When you get the energy, carbohydrates, food, in any way, serotonin, all these other chemicals that induce you to go rest. That's the sequence. That's the process.
Don't forget about insulin.
Yeah.
Because the insulin also makes the insulin's going to make you tired too. So check your diet. Yeah. Check your diet. And I just had a guy on Twitter. Oh man, he's like, hey man, I'm tired during the day. I'm dragging. I was like, well, check your diet. And he's like, well, I think it's okay. I'm drinking a lot of energy drinks. No, not good. The energy drinks are addictive.
Yeah,
they're tasty. They're addictive, and they're filled with sugar most of the time. So you're going to get a major sugar rush, and then you're going to crash. So you got to be careful of that. Also, you don't want to be on the crazy amount of caffeine all day, and that's going to mess up your system as well.
It does the same thing as the sugar, the caffeine rush, and then the crash. That's the same thing. Even more than sugar.
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you right now. People ask me all the time, and they're surprised that I work out without caffeine in the morning. But I'm telling you, give it a try.
Yeah.
Because it'll be harder. Maybe it's harder for you to get out of bed. Maybe it's harder for you to get ready. Maybe it's harder for you to get into the gym with no caffeine. And maybe it's harder for you to start your workout with no caffeine. But once you start the workout, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And if it is, good. Make your workout harder. I don't think it's that big of a deal. So don't become addicted to the caffeine, and that's going to be, because that can get problematic. And then power nap, talked about this before. If you need to, you take a little power nap. You take 6 to 8 minutes, you set your alarm clock, you elevate your feet above your heart, you lay down, and you black out. If you're really tired, 6 to 8 minutes, you feel like a rock star after one of those.
Yep. Agree.
And another thing you can do if you're tired during the day, no big deal. Just find a little corner somewhere. Go bang some push-ups out. Go bang out 10 burpees.
Yeah. Get the blood flowing.
Get the blood flowing.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's physiologically impossible to do burpees and remain tired. Whatever burpees you can tell you since you turned into a physiology major over here tonight. If you want to tell me what that does physiologically, I don't know, but I do know this. If you knock out 10 burpees, it's a small prescription, you will not be tired for at least a half an hour. Yep. You're not going to be 10 burpees and then feel tired. You can't do it.
I can tell you why physiologically.
Endorphins get released?
Other stuff. Adrenaline. Like when you know you're going to do physical activity, when you know it, you have I'm not saying a huge adrenaline rush.
Just a little
you
dump.
get an adrenaline rush, yeah. A little bit. It's still going. It's part of it.
So those are some tips, I guess, for alertness throughout the day that I use.
Yeah, there you go.
And for getting out of bed early in the morning. Hey, and by the way, go to bed earlier at night.
Yeah.
Go to bed earlier at night. I go to bed usually around 11. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend going to bed at 11 and getting up at 4:30. No, I don't recommend that. I recommend going to bed when you get tired. Shut your computer off. Stop looking at the interwebs.
Yeah.
And go to sleep. Yeah. You know what? Go read an actual book because that make you tired.
Yeah.
That will make you tired. That's like the opposite of burpees. Go read a book, and just sit there and you will get more tired.
Yeah. Unless it's like a real exciting or interesting book.
Yeah.
Whoa, I want to read some more.
Of course. Yeah. Don't read Blood Meridian before you go to bed.
Yeah, and you're a fast sleeper.
Yeah.
That thing. Or you don't need that much sleep, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the no sleep thing, that'll get you so quick. It'll promptly put you into a crash the next day.
Yeah. I don't know, though. You can power through. Well, I don't know. If I can go the next... Man, even when you had the latest little baby.
Yeah.
You came in here on a couple hours sleep.
Yeah.
You were rolled in here, ready to record. You sat here. You got after it.
Yeah, it's true. And there's all these different little
Doesn't that make you realize?
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much more you can do. I think a lot of people...
Absolutely.
It's like this, and I don't want to go into this full subject right now, but the other day I did a 72-hour fast, right? Yeah. No food for 72 hours. And there's a bunch of reasons we could talk about it. Maybe we'll do it on a later podcast. I will say this, though. One small thing. If you go 72 hours without eating, it recalibrates your hunger meter. Because... We just think, I haven't had a donut in 2 hours. I'm starving. Right. Like, no, you're not starving. You're not even hungry. Not even close to hungry. So recalibrate that thing. Do a fast. even if you just don't eat for 24 hours, you realize that most of your hunger signals that are coming to your brain are lies.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're lies like, oh, don't eat, but I'm saying you don't need to eat. And how liberating is it? I was having so much fun. I was on this fast, and I'm just like, don't even need food. I don't need food. I don't need to eat. That's the ultimate control, right?
Yep.
What? I don't need food.
Yep.
Food is if you're weak.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's that type
yep.
of. You get that mentality going, and then guess what? Now you go on a travel day, and you go, oh man, I'm going to be in the airport all day today, and I don't know what I'm going to eat. Don't eat anything.
Yep, you're capable.
You're totally capable. You can go
yep.
72 hours. As a matter of fact, you can go like 30 days without food. So going 3 days is not that big of a deal. It's not even that big of a deal.
Yeah.
When I just did this 72-hour fast, it was just not like I did everything normal. I went to jiu-jitsu. I worked out. I did squats. I did pull-ups. Everything was normal. Mm-hmm. Everything was normal. It's not that big, crazy deal. We just get so accustomed to just feeding the machine all the time, and you gotta have a meal every 6 hours, and it's so at our fingertips.
Yeah.
But it's also this is what I realize. It's so inconvenient to have to eat all the time.
I know, man. That's whack. You're right.
So it's kind of nice to just eat, once a day. Just put a big old steak on and get after it.
Yeah, I mean, and
again, there's all kinds of people. There's people that know. This is one of the reasons I don't like talking about this particular topic. Is because there's a lot of people that like study this and know a bunch about this and know all these facts. So if I go and do the research,
yeah.
Well, I know the facts too, but I'm not going to sit here and quote them, right? I don't have the in-depth knowledge that Peter Attia has on fasting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Dom D'Agostino. Those guys, they're doctors. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm a knucklehead. And another thing is people, what did you do to prepare for your fast? I was like, I didn't eat. Yeah, I was with Leif and we were on a trip and we had like a lunch and then we did a gig that night and I don't like to eat before I do a gig. And then after that, we stayed up a little bit and did some work and then woke up in the morning, had an early flight, and then I came home and I wanted to train, so I worked out, and then I got done with that and I went and did something else, and the next thing I knew it was 24 hours. Like, you know what? And the next day I didn't feel too hungry, so I was like, and then just held on. So it wasn't no preparation, just got after it. Again, people, don't do this.
This is anecdotal.
Check with a physician or whatever you got to do. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, as far as like a recommendation you should do, because you are different, and 72-hour fast, okay, I dig it, man. But I think really kind of the point that you're making, or one of them anyway, I think is absolutely true. So a lot of it is like habitual hunger, but it goes beyond just like psychological habitual. It's like physiological. It's like, okay, I'm used to getting food every 4 hours. Right. So when the 4 hour mark comes around, physiologically, your stomach's going to be like, where's my food? Yep. Your mouth's going to be, where's my food? And then after a while, if you're like, hey, you don't get food this time, your stomach's going to go, okay, sometimes we don't get food. Yeah. So let's kind of act right, and then when the food comes, okay, we'll do that when that happens.
The recalibration is real, though, because then after I started eating again, and then the next day I go, oh, I'm feeling hungry, I'm going to eat something. I go, I'm actually not hungry. So why am I eating? Why am I eating if I'm not hungry?
Yeah.
It's my mind is controlling me when I should be controlling my mind.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing where there's nothing new, right? Your mind is so strong or whatever. So you can trick yourself, and this goes for sleep too. So if you think that you got 9 hours of sleep, you'll be way less tired than, okay, let's say two people, exact people, they're identical twins,
right?
Identical life experience, whatever. One guy believes the next morning, okay, they both got 8 hours sleep. One guy believes he only got 4 hours sleep, and one guy believes he got 10 hours sleep.
Typical placebo scenario.
Yeah, but that's how your mind, it knows. Like, basically, it's your mind accommodating what it thinks the stimulus is. So the other twin, the 4 hour sleep believer, he's going to be way more tired. And he's going to be like, dang, where's that nap I was looking for and I need or whatever. The other guy,
imagine if you woke up every day and you were like, I only got 4 hours of sleep and I'm going to crush today.
Exactly right.
That's my point. I actually believe I work better on less sleep. How you like them apples?
Exactly. And that's what was going to be my point there, where you're like,
I've told you that before.
Yeah.
I've told Echo before that when we're getting ready to record the podcast, the day before I record the podcast, that night, I like to sleep less, like 4 hours, because I feel like it sharpens. I'll tell you what, to be quite honest, what I think it does, it brings it. it brings my emotions a little closer to the surface.
So like you feel like I'm kind of under attack, so I better harden up right now. I better like get my troops ready.
No, it's not that. It's like, no, this is what it is. I can get more, like when I'm reading something, I'm more focused on it. I'm more into it.
Like actively?
Yeah, because I think when I'm well rested, I'm like rock solid, right? I'm just like, oh yeah. When I sleep less, I'm a little bit more exposed. I'm a little bit more vulnerable, right? Mentally.
Right.
And I need that.
Right. Yeah,
because otherwise I just become very detached. I become very detached. Yeah. And it's so I want it when I come in here, I want to be on the fringe a little bit.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what
I want to be exposed. I want to be walking in here being like, man, this is an intense
This
thing.
is not a walk in the park today.
No.
This is going to be hard, so let me get
I
ready.
want to be stressed a little bit when I come in here.
Yeah, man. I can dig it.
And I always feel that way. Like it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu. I feel better when I'm stressed and when I'm a little bit more stressed, a little bit more tension, a little bit more pressure on myself. I want to be there.
Yeah,
I don't want to be there all the time. And I'll tell you what, just so everybody knows, there's some days where I'm tired. Where I'm just tired, and sometimes I just need a power nap so bad. I'm literally falling asleep, and I hate that. That's a horrible feeling. But you know what? Elevate your feet, set an alarm clock for 8 minutes. Boom, you're gonna wake up feeling like Superman.
Yeah. It's kind of like when people hit themselves before they go lift. Because it wages.
You mean they
like
slap themselves? Yeah, for sure.
So on the surface, it looks like, oh, he's getting fired up. But yeah, why is he getting fired up? For the exact same reason that you're talking about. Because if it's like, boom, I'm getting these things where I got to kind of bounce back from, right? I'm under attack.
You get a legitimate adrenaline rush too.
Right. So physiologically, it's the same exact sequence right there. But you're just doing it consciously. And instead of slaps, it's lack of sleep.
Yes.
Or what have you. There you go. That's the answer.
And everyone that's going to attack me on social media for not sleeping, not eating, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
hey,
sorry.
Man, I don't know. That's all you.
I don't know what to tell you.
Do it. Hey, Jocko.
I appreciate your advice. I do know I should sleep more. I do know I should eat. Better. I'm sorry.
But what does that even mean?
I don't even know.
Should. The word should. What does that even mean? You should. Anyway, that's a whole. Hey, Jocko, don't be you anymore.
Well, that's true.
Hey, be different than you. That's what that. Well, actually, the point what I was gonna say earlier is just like what you're saying. You're not citing all this science and making claims about how this is going to benefit you or nothing like that. That's not what you're doing. It is anecdotal, and I think the point is that if you push yourself through certain situations and you prove it to yourself that you can function just fine with 5 hours sleep rather than 8, 1 or 2 times or whatever, or however many, that you can do that. Like we talked about this before, where you get kind of dependent on certain things. And then to the point where you believe that you can't function without it, whether it be sleep, whether it be coffee in the morning, whatever, or eating every 4 hours. Like when I was really into weightlifting and bodybuilding type stuff, I remember thinking, man, I gotta hurry up and eat. It's 4 hours or whatever. And then kind of later on in life, man, I haven't eaten yet today, and it's late in the day. Mm-hmm. I'm fine.
You're not.
I'm not losing my gains.
Your game.
Yeah, whatever gains, but
game, whatever.
Yeah. So once you prove it to yourself, it's like if you stay up all night when you have work the next day,
and
you do your work, when you go to bed, you can be like, hey, if I had to, I could do that again.
That is another thing that I enjoy about pushing those envelopes. Is it feels really good to go to bed when you've been awake for a long time. It feels really good to eat a meal once you haven't eaten for a while. You appreciate it more.
Yeah, that's
good.
That's true, but that's kind of a psycho way of invoking appreciation. Okay, in my opinion.
Understood.
Next question. Oh, back to the Iron Swan. That's it.
Yeah,
that's the song.
Yes,
just a reminder.
Give it a try.
Yep.
The sword.
Next question. What's the best way to handle awful random people? Say, a bunch of intimidating thugs on a bus or a violent, scary drunk person.
Well, and there's even more awful random people out there that you might need to look out for. I think this is obviously you got people that are pointed criminals that are coming after you. You got terrorists that might be coming after you, or just trying to do random acts of mass violence. So those are particular type. I think that this is a question directed for more of something that could easily happen to people, random, right? Yeah. Random people that are being jerks or thugs or people that are drunk or high or whatever else. Okay, so obviously, what do we want to do? We want to be prepared. So to start with, you want to be in really good physical condition. So that means you want to work out. You want to be ready to handle yourself physically. You want to know how to fight. That means you need to train jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling. If you're in a high crime area, or you're in a high threat area, and you think this stuff is really going to happen out there, then guess what? You need to get a firearm. You need to learn how to shoot a firearm. You need to train with the firearm. You need to understand the ramifications of utilizing a firearm, and then you need to carry it so you can protect yourself. And those same things go if you decide you're going to carry any kind of weapon, whether it's pepper spray or a mace or an asp or a knife, anything that you're going to carry, you better know what you're doing. You need to prepare with it. So that's what you need to do to be prepared. Okay, that's what. And I've said this before. I said it on the Sam Harris podcast. If you do these things, if you work on your physical condition, if you work on your fighting, if you work on your shooting, if you work on your weapon skills, and you never have to use them, great. I will still say it has not been wasted time. It has been time that has made you a better person. It's imposed discipline on you. It's gotten you better physical conditioning. It's just good for you. Mm-hmm. So regardless, you should be training in these type of situations. Now, once you get to this type of situation, first of all, how did you get there? Because we need to have situational awareness, right? How are you not paying attention to what's going on around you? You need to pay attention to what's going on around you. And then you watch for these scenarios that could unfold and you avoid them, period. So how are you getting stuck on a bus with a bunch of maniacs, right? There's something, when they got on, you got off. That's real simple, right? Or you go to get on and you see these knuckleheads, you walk right back off. I mean, that's pretty easy to handle. Oh, there's a bunch of knuckleheads walking down the street towards you? Cool, cross the street, walk down the other side. Situational awareness. Oh, you hear them coming up behind you? Cool, step off, cross the street, avoid. We want to have situational awareness. That should solve 99% of your problems.
Agree.
Is being aware of your surroundings, understanding your situation, planning. What about just simple planning? Like, where are you going? When are you going to come home? If you took a subway into the city at night and you're going to be coming home late at night and you're alone, and you are suspect of what's happening, maybe you get an Uber instead of riding the subway. It's just planning that comes into play as well to avoid these situations. Now, if you do get caught in these situations, here's a couple recommendations. Okay, my number one is to kind of do your best to detach from the scenario, right? So you got, let's say you're on a bus and there's a bunch of people acting crazy and they jumped on right after you got on and you couldn't get off in time, so now you're on the bus with them. I want you to detach from them. So that means you're not looking at them, you're not staring at them, you're not being all intimidated. You want to just detach. Just do what you would normally do. Everyone carries a phone these days. Break out your phone, start looking at your phone, pull out your paper, start looking at your paper, study if you don't have either one of those two, look outside, look at the passing. Just don't enter their world. Don't become a part of their thing that they have going on. Because what they want you to do is they want you to make eye contact. Yeah, what they want you to do is glance over at them. What they want you to do is enter their world. Because a lot of times these knuckleheads, they're in their own world. And you actually have to penetrate their world if you want to get in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remain. I'm not going to cower, though. There's a difference, okay? Because if you give the impression of you're just like cowering and scared, well, then that's entering their world. Yep, and they're going to recognize that. But if you're just, hey, sitting here just doing what you'd normally do, and it's not a big deal. You do this all the time. You don't care about them. Don't care about me. Leave me alone. That's where I'm going. Now, if for whatever reason I make some kind of eye contact, right? Now I made the eye contact. I've entered their world. I'm going to go ahead and give them just a little head nod, just a little, just a little regular head nod like I would do with you if I saw you on the street. Hey, just a little respectful little head nod, and then I'm going to go right back to what I was doing. I'm going to go right back out of their world. I acknowledge their world. I'm not going to give I'm not going to look scared, but I'm not going to look aggressive. I'm just going to be respectful. Hey, little head nod, hope you're having a good night.
That's good.
And then go back to your business. Again, I just want to detach from them. That's my attitude, is I want to detach from them. And this avoids them saying, like if they're looking at you and you don't look back, or they're just like bearing down on you, hey, what do hey, why are you ignoring me or whatever? Are you too cool for me or something like that? So sometimes you get, look, little head nod. It's all good. If they do start, now see, I'm escalating this. So they're escalating this. So now if they do start to escalate this thing in like, what are you looking at? Or one of those things. It's just, again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to de-escalate without appearing vulnerable, So maybe it's just, hey, no issue here. Just something simple like that. No, I'm good. Like, what are you doing? Just riding the bus home. You know what I mean? Just real matter of fact. Just didn't go try and get back. So you might want to just even try and connect a little connection instead of I'm trying to go home, because that might piss some people off because they don't have a home, or their home is a bad place. So what might be better than saying that is, I just got done with work. Now you're just a working man, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, you might be dealing with someone that doesn't have a job or lost their job. Right. So I'm saying you're not going to come up with a great. But my point here is just you're just going to try and make simple, non-confrontational statements that don't give them anything to grab onto, because that's what they want. Want something. They just want something to grab onto. That's what they're looking for. So you don't want to let that happen. Now, things can still continue to escalate. You get someone that's determined to be a jerk, or determined to be hostile, or determined to be aggressive. Now, I'll tell you that if you train and you work out and you do jiu-jitsu and you have skills, people know it. People that are belligerents generally can tell. Mm-hmm. Even in a drunken state, when you square off with someone or you look at someone and they have an attitude of like, look, I do this all the time. I'm good. You want to fight? I'm here. Not saying that, but just a look. Right. And people can tell. Yeah. If they're real troublemakers, they can tell. Now, sometimes that's not a good thing, because that means they're going to do the challenge, So you got to watch out for that. So
I think that's right, even though on the internet it might seem like it's telling a different story. It's like, oh, guy confronts the wrong guy, guy, street thug confronts jiu-jitsu master or something. Yep. And then it shows that they actually fought. So it kind of seems like, oh, no, they don't know, obviously, out there.
No,
but that's rare, man. And that's why it makes the internet. Yeah. So it's rare. Typically,
And this is no guarantee. But I'm just saying, I could tell, even before I started doing jiu-jitsu, I could tell if somebody was ready to rumble.
I have acted like I was ready to rumble, no fight training, to a guy who was belligerent to me directly.
Right.
Terry was there. We were working. And all I did was act like I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know, by the way. Mm-hmm. Act like I knew. And in front of everybody, the guy was like, oh, hey, I'm sorry, man. It's my bad. Drunk guy, belligerent, a little bit bigger than me, too. And he just said, but I was ready to do the best fighting I could, because it was kind of go time at that point. Yeah. He was like, the kind of guy where he's talking, he's like, yeah, man, I'm from Chicago. And he's like rubbing against me in my face, kind. Mm-hmm. Not like I want to fight you, but just like almost like a dog would, just and rubbing against me. And then whatever, I made like, okay, we're about to fight. Took off my jacket like real quick or whatever. And was like, all right, like just go, just like how you're saying though, just real matter of fact,
real calm, real matter of fact. Yeah. Like you do this all the time.
Yep. And the thing, I understand that it is on right now. Mm-hmm. Understand. And then the guy, and he surprisingly,
it's
was
not
like,
surprising.
Hey, my bad, bro, my bad, in front of everybody though.
It's not surprising, because people that act like that are weak. and they're insecure and they're acting on that. And so when somebody stands up to them and they look at them and think, this guy might actually know how to fight, then that's what happens. And by the way, when you do train all the time, you do know how to fight. And then it is matter of fact. You're like, I'll fight you. Yeah, hold on.
That's the best feeling in the world.
It's a good feeling to know that you can handle yourself. Yep. Now, okay, so now this continues to escalate, and you just try and keep your distance from people. You don't want to let them get close. You don't know they got a knife. You don't know what kind of disease they got. You just want to keep away from them.
Yeah.
But eventually, you might not be able to back up anymore. You might not be able to keep any distance. Watch their hands. Keep as much distance as you can. Eventually, you got to put your hands up in kind of a non-confrontational way to protect your face, to protect the sucker punch that's coming. You put your hands up just in a non-confrontational way, up around your head, and continue to de-escalate. Hey, man, I'm not here. Don't have any problems. I'm not looking for an issue. I don't know what your issue is, but I don't have any issue with you. I'm just trying to head home from work. One of those things. And finally, if you get to a point where you have no choice, well, then you utilize the skills that you have. You hit hard, hit fast. You don't stop hitting until the threat is neutralized, and then you get away. And that's, in order to be able to do that, go to step one, prepare.
Yeah, that's the 99% of situations will be avoided if you're just aware.
Most important thing.
Man,
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. So true.
Yeah, we would much rather have you do that, because any of these situations, I could go out, I'm pretty well prepared for anything. I could go out tonight and have some guy square off with me, and as I'm getting ready to fight him, his buddy cracks me in the head with a bottle and kills me. Yeah. That could happen tonight.
Yeah.
That could happen at a restaurant tonight. That could happen. Yeah. So what am I going to try and do? I'm going to try to avoid it. The minute you square off with somebody, you're now a target for all his friends. By the way, I've been in some bar fights where the idiot that is being belligerent doesn't have the common sense, or doesn't have the sense that he's surrounded by my friends. Yeah. And you're just thinking you're doomed. Yeah. So luckily, the guys that I hang out with are pretty honorable people that aren't just going to, crush somebody's skull. But you don't always, that's no guarantee. That's no guarantee. There's murders every day in America. Yeah, man. And they're not planned, all of them. Seldom are they planned.
This guy on Facebook, I want to say, I think I always get confused with the name, because like a lot of people will be like, "Hey, Echoes," and ask me questions in regards to this podcast. So
as opposed to the other podcast? Oh, this podcast.
But I don't want to be like, okay, he asked me, but no, it was, Anyway, so a guy asked me, like, the scenario was he was at a bar or party or something, and guys were being disrespectful to him and his wife or girlfriend or something. And then he's like, I know the high road. I know the right thing to do, quote unquote, is to be done with it, to leave the situation. But when you leave, you feel like a little, like you wussed out. And that's a really powerful feeling that you don't want. So like, what do you do, man? How do you reconcile it? Or should I fight? Or under certain circumstances, should I just fight for the honor kind of thing? Like, what's the thing? And so I've always really looked at it this way, especially if you're kind of like, if you have mental kind of control over the situation, where you can be like, okay, am I going to fight this guy or what? So when you choose to engage, when you want to fight the guy, you're going to say, you know what, you said the wrong thing to me, and I'm going to square off, or to my wife or whatever, So I'm going to choose to square off. Now, what you did is you took on all the potential results of that. You took all that on. Even if you win the fight, you get arrested, like everything, as opposed to taking on all the potential results, probable, that come with not engaging, which include going home safe, your wife safe, everybody safe, wake up tomorrow just like you would the other day, and then compare that to jail. I'm injured in some way. I can't, I can function less tomorrow, if I even make it home tomorrow, death, all this stuff. When you kind of consider the outcomes that you want, and the reason you're going to make one decision over the other, it comes real clear, even though at the time it's so powerful, because you're like, oh man, I don't want to wuss out in front of everybody, or my wife, it's my honor in front of my wife. But your wife wants you to leave. Your wife doesn't want you to be like, hey, yeah, my husband got in a bar fight. Woohoo. Like, I'm so proud of him, you know? No, your kids are like, I'm glad you're home, Dad.
Yeah.
You know? I'm glad you're not in the hospital.
That's another thing that comes with, I think, with training all the time is we all know where we stand.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if there's a person that's going to beat me in a bar fight, I know him. Like, it's a famous fighter. It's a famous jiu-jitsu player. It's someone that is a known public figure that is known for fighting. That's like, who's going to give, if it's a civilian that doesn't train, I mean, they're not going to stand a chance. Yeah. Now, if 4 of their friends jump in, of course, you're going to have some issues.
Well,
but yes, the best thing to do is avoid. But does your wife, when your wife knows that you train every day, that you get after it every day, that you're physically fit, physically strong, and knows that you could destroy that person, does she look down on you when you walk out of there? No, she's like, well, I'm glad I married an actual man instead of an idiot.
Right.
And it's not that big of a deal. Like, hey, bro, if you want to fight, here, come to this gym. I'll be there tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
we'll go. But I'm not going to fight out here and get arrested by and sued by you after I put you to sleep, and then I make it so you can't use your arms anymore forever. Yeah.
And even that, I mean, really, let's really admit it. Even doing that, like, hey, you want to fight? I do want to fight you. Right. But I'm a smart fighter. So come to my gym. Even that's a little move. Boy move. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. As far as moves go. Although, hey, look, if someone does that and posts it on the internet or something like that, or come on, let's face it, we all want to see that. A part of us wants to see that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, see the bully get beat up. I guess. That's pretty common.
But really, at the end of the day, that's not the decision. The decision isn't.
You're right, because it goes back to what I said, that earlier question. If you're secure in your manhood, then it's not that big of a deal to go, dude, you're drunk, carry on. I'm out of here with my wife. We're going to go back to our house and carry on with our lives like normal people. Yeah. You can find another person to get in a drunk fight with and end up in jail later.
Let me ask you this. You can be honest. Even as a full-grown, secure man, if you found yourself in that scenario and you're like, no, me and my wife, we're going to go home. There's still a small party.
Of course.
Like, I wish I would have
well, especially when you enjoy fighting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When fighting is fun. And actually, one of the guys at the gym who's brown belt Mike, he doesn't train much when you're there. Anyways, Mike.
I train with him,
Yeah, dude, he
usually goes in the morning.
Yeah, he's usually there. But anyways, he had somebody like say something to somebody like smacked his girlfriend's ass. Like what? Like he brought his girlfriend into the bar.
Yeah.
And he does Muay Thai, of course, and he's a jiu-jitsu player. I mean, he's a badass dude. Mm-hmm. He walks in the bar, and this guy just straight up, just bam, slaps his girlfriend's ass. And he like turned around, boom, 1-2 to the head, dropped the guy, knee to the face, out. Was like, yep. Boom, got arrested. He paid $8,000 or something and did like 72 hours in jail. I mean, it was legit. Like, and he talks about it. I mean, just to show you like a different, and that's why like his attitude. I talked to him about it. And he's like, yeah, the guy crossed the line and I had to put him down. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that's an awesome story. By the way, it gives me like a for real like, fuck, Mike, you're the man. But let's face it though. That wasn't the right move as far as before you do it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, because we don't know what could have happened.
Yes.
We know what the actual outcome was, and it was like $8,000.
Yep.
And
his wife? Girlfriend. Okay.
Just his girlfriend. Yep. Don't mess with Mike's girl, man.
Well, I'm just saying, if you have a wife and then on top of that, if you have like a kids, the $8,000 scenario seems more detrimental.
Yeah, that's true. But, so I'm saying, this is why you treat people with respect.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you never know who you're messing with. And Mike doesn't look like he's a big, intimidating guy by any chance. What does he weigh? 170?
I'm thinking of a different guy. I realize it, but
Mike's 170. He's tough. He's a tough bastard too. I mean, on the mat, he's tough. Yeah. But he's like 170. And you know what? He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, really good with the gi, and he wrestled. Like he wrestled in high school. So yeah. And he trained Muay Thai. So he's just a tough dude.
Yeah.
And you don't know who you're messing with, and boom. But the interesting thing is, and you know this, I know this, when you make eye contact with another person in a situation like that, you already know if they train or not. Yep. You're like, oh, this guy trains for sure. I'm in for it. This is it's gonna be on. That's awareness from the training.
Yeah. But still, awesome story. Don't do that.
Yeah, I know. Don't do what Mike did.
Yeah. But Mike, keep it up, though. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, Mike, don't do it again. Yeah, don't mess with Mike's girl.
Jocko, were you very disciplined as a kid? And was there a set day or moment when you saw how important discipline was and decided to do it?
Well, as a kid, I think I was, for the most part, a kid. I was not some extremely disciplined kid. I was pretty stubborn when it came to certain things, which may be some kind of an early immature form of discipline, just being hard-headed. But I think as I got older, I saw the first thing I remember along these lines is seeing a lack of discipline around me. I didn't identify it as people having discipline. I saw like a lack of discipline. I saw weakness. I saw drugs. I saw alcohol. I saw laziness. And I started to get after it a little bit, right? A little tiny bit. But there was no role models. There was no internet. There was no guidance. I didn't have the sense to go to the library and find Bob Hoffman's book, How to Be Happy, Healthy, and Strong. Like, I didn't know to do that. I didn't have the sense to do that. And so we did some basic things, you know what I mean? Some push-ups, And the push-up workouts that I did when I was 13 years old are laughable. Laughable. I mean, I think if I did, a set of 50 push-ups, I was boom, I'm the man, right?
No, you are the man. 13.
Yeah.
50.
And we did some silly little like kind of barbell, dumbbell circuit training kind of thing. Now, I always liked the military. I recognize that as some kind of a trait of discipline in there. And I looked up to military veterans. I knew one Marine Corps drill instructor. And if you know anything about Marine Corps drill instructors, so now we're talking 85, 86, 87. There wasn't any wars going on. But, when you're a kid, you're just like, oh, he's a Marine Corps drill instructor. He fit the part. He was just perfect Marine Corps drill instructor, which most Marine Corps drill instructors are pretty damn perfect. It's an incredibly honed job that's very well choreographed. And very structured, and it's a very fine.
It's real tight.
It's real tight. Right? It's a real tight situation if you're a good Marine Corps drill instructor. Yeah. And I knew one right when I was a kid, and I just looked at him. He was like a god, right? This guy is a Marine Corps, and of course I think he had like a '68 Camaro, so he had a muscle car. So he was just dope. Like just the man. And so I got that going on, and then there was the hardcore bands that I started listening to, and they seemed to have some kind of, there was something there, right? I recognized something there. I recognized something with Black Flag. I recognized something with a band called Slapshot. I recognized something with the Cro-Mags, and I saw there was something in there, and I didn't know what it was, but it was some kind of strength. Right? Some kind of discipline was in there. I didn't put it all together, though. And there was no sort of unified way to go down this path. I didn't find that. And I don't know if I found it, what it would have looked like to me. Maybe you could say that path was the Boy Scouts, right? The Boy Scouts are a disciplined group of individuals that learn how to hike and hunt. And so was that it? I don't know. Maybe I didn't identify that, or I didn't have the right personality because I was kind of nonconformist, right? A little bit, a little bit of a rebel. So I didn't put it all together. And I had some little flashes of like being hardcore with some of the things I did that would be like, kind of getting after it in some really minor way, some minimalistic level of discipline. But it wasn't until I started training in earnest to join the Navy that I started to what we could recognize now as getting after it a little bit. It's nothing compared to what people do now. What definitely not, but now we're talking 1989. I was running through marshes and being covered in mud, and I was swimming in the ocean, and I was doing pull-ups and push-ups and dips and sit-ups. And again, it's nothing compared to what I do now, or even what everybody does now. But I was doing what I could with what I knew at the time. And I didn't really have any idea of what or really what people in general were capable of. Like, I just didn't know. I never would have thought a good pull-up workout is 500 to 1,000 pull-ups. I wouldn't have thought that. For me, I did 3 sets of pull-ups, and I was kind of the man, So I just didn't know. And I guess you could say I didn't know to even explore those outer limits of what I was capable of, which is a bummer. Now, also you got to remember, I didn't even know another person that did pull-ups. Like, there wasn't like pull-up bars around. There wasn't, I'm out in the woods somewhere. In the woods in New England. There's no pull-ups. People aren't like, hey, how many pull-ups can you do? I never heard that question. Oh. And I didn't know anybody that swam in the open ocean. I didn't know anybody that did push-up workouts, right? I don't know. I was just in the sticks. And so when I joined the military, I was a blank slate, really, for all practical purposes. And it was really easy. They say, you do this. This is what you do. And you get advanced. This is what you do to be ready. This is what you do. And I realized very quickly that the harder you worked, that the more disciplined you were, the easier your life was. The easier your job was, the easier your day was, the easier your physical activities would get. And when I got into the teams, and really going through buds, when I finally met guys that were going to buds, and we started doing 100 pull-ups, and we started doing 150 pull-ups, and we started doing 200 pull-ups a workout, and then it was like, oh wow, you can do a lot of stuff. That was getting ready to go to buds, and then you go to buds, and you realize that people, it's not just this individual like spiritual awakening. Like, no, you just realize, hey, you can do a lot of pull-ups. People can. It's not that big of a deal. And everybody knows you can find that out you don't need to go to buds to figure that out. You can figure that out just, I'm telling you right now. You know what I mean? And all you need is to have that knowledge. But I continued to realize that being disciplined, all these things, waking up earlier and working hard and training hard and keeping your gear squared away and studying the material that we were supposed to know, I realized that work, that discipline made life easier, and it made us freer. Made me freer. And the more time I spent in the teams, the more this came embedded in my head. And not only as an individual did I realize this, but I realized this very quickly, or not very quickly, but as soon as I started moving into leadership positions, I realized that the more disciplined a squad was, or the more disciplined a platoon was, the better that squad or that platoon was going to be. And that's kind of where the evolution of it.
Yeah, man, it's that whole process that I'm finally, I don't want to say finally, but right now it's starting to become clear where the whole, you're going to pay the price, at some point. You're going to pay the price for your actions. So if you're going to prepare, like, let's say I'm going to get in shape, right? You committing to working out every day, that's you paying a certain price. Like, having the discipline to do it. You're going to pay the price. Waking up early is not comfortable. Working out hard every day, it's not comfortable. You're going to pay a little price right there. The next day, or in regards to the results of that workout, you're not paying the price. You're reaping kind of rewards, right? Or you cannot pay the price early with the workout and stuff, but you still that tab is still outstanding. So when you
balance due,
yeah. So when it comes results time, that's when you're gonna pay your little price there. Your body, your health, whatever. At some point, you're gonna have to pay a price.
Pay now or pay later.
Yeah, man. So and
I vote pay now.
Pay now, you get way more benefit. Because like no one remembers. Well, we do. Some of us do. I don't remember and take pleasure in remembering the time I skipped that workout because I wasn't feeling like doing it. You know, like that doesn't provide a sense of pleasure in my life to think back on those days. You know.
Yeah, it's not good.
And at the same time, when I think of like the detriment of doing the workout when I didn't feel like it, that's not a bad memory to me. You know. When I do think back of like, or think even now of like the result of being in better shape than the average person, or going to jiu-jitsu and not gassing or whatever, bringing in all the groceries at one time. Let's face it, that's something. That is a sense of pleasure that I have the freedom to be able to do that when I want, you know?
Yeah. And you know what else is interesting about this is sometimes I hear this, and you did this a couple times tonight, right? People go, well, yeah, but you're Jocko. Mm-hmm. Like as if I'm not a normal person, but
you're not. But
yeah, continue. But I'm saying like, you know, I just kind of went through like the story, and it paints a pretty clear picture that I'm a pretty normal person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal, but I made decisions along the way that maybe weren't normal, and that maybe opened the doors to being a little bit not normal.
Yeah.
But there are choices that you can make. So I'll have this with my kids too. Or you know who else sometimes I'll have? I would have friends, we'll say,
sure,
that would say, you know, well, yeah, that's you. You know, like I'd say, no, if you want to win this fight, for instance, you want to win this fight, man, you gotta do this. You gotta get after this. And he'd be like, well, you know, it's not that easy, and that's what you would do, but you're you, and that's, you know, it's almost like, yeah, it's unachievable.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't apply to me.
And my kids will say that to me. You know, my kids, and I think it's actually a pretty big detriment that they think that I'm not. That I do it, but that's because I'm me and I'm it's like not true. It's not true. And so, you know, occasionally I hear people say that, and I go, man, this isn't like, I guess it's kind of like what we were talking about the other day with someone saying, oh, that's a good picture you took. What kind of camera did you use? Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that. I'm like, you know, I wake up early. It's not just because I just gifted that way.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or I work out a lot. Oh, just because you're super motivated.
Right. No. Gifted to you at some point.
I just am born motivated. Yeah. Right? No, actually, I'm a person. Yep. And I grew up a person.
Yeah.
And so, but it makes it very clear that these are just choices you can make, and you can get after it.
Totally true. And I would say that it does, anytime I would say consciously and meaningfully say, well, that's you, is if I would be talking about a way of achieving like the same thing. Like you would do it this way, I would try to do it this way kind of thing. If I was confident that I could get the results, you know, like whatever that is. But when did I say it today about you sleeping? You can do the 4-hour sleeping thing. Right. Or so more so than you can do the 4-hour sleep and still function. I meant you're into the 4 hours, 5 hours sleep thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
But and I realize there are some genetic points in there, I believe, right?
Yeah.
I believe that there are some genetic points in there. I believe there are some genetic points in everything, right? And I've told you this. I have one of my daughters who is most similar to me, both physically and mentally, sleeps about the same as I do, if not less.
Yeah.
One of my other daughters, who is most physically and mentally, well, physically more like my wife, she sleeps a lot.
Yeah.
And so and my wife sleeps more than I do. And so there is a genetic component to it. I believe, and I've read articles, and people send me Twitter articles all the time. Oh, you're one of these, you know, fast sleepers, the 2% of the population, all this stuff. And I'm just saying, okay, yeah, that's great. But then people say, oh, well, you just work out every day because you're super motivated. Right. And that's just good. Or you just train jiu-jitsu all the time because you're just super motivated. And it's like, okay, yeah. Well, you know what? Great.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely correct. And even with the sleeping thing, that is like, because, okay, ultimately, yeah, if you don't have to sleep as much as the next person, sure, that's an advantage just because you have more time. That's it. It's not like, someone would be like, hey, other than that reason, be like, hey, it's cooler or it's somehow more beneficial for me to sleep 5 hours rather than my normal 8. So, I mean, put it this way. If someone wants to choose to sleep 4 hours just because you do it, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Now, that being said, what's awesome is there are a bunch of people on the interwebs, a bunch of badass troopers that I retweet almost all of these because people go, hey, I lost 32 pounds. Mm-hmm. Hey, I lost 42 pounds. Hey, I did my first squat today with 300 pounds. So and there's no difference in what they were doing before and what they're doing now. Yep. Fundamentally in their genes, right, or their physiology. What they did is they decided to make these decisions. Yes, they decided that they were going to go out. They decided they were going to step up their game. They're going to decide they're going to wake up early. They decided they were going to clean up their diet. They decided they were going to get after it. And when they do that, all of a sudden, boom,
results.
And you know what? You fast forward like 6 months, and people go, "Well, you just do that because you're super motivated." And they'll be thinking, "You know what? No, I'm not. I'm a person, and I choose to get after it."
Yep.
I recommend you all choose to get after it,
and I encourage that.
And you know what? It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. There's the nagging weakness that is pulling you down.
Yep.
You got to shut that thing down.
Here's the thing, I was talking to my friend Anthony about this yesterday. And I always mention this. Okay, so decision making, right? We're wired, this environment right now, we're wired to not get after it in our brain. We're wired for the short-term payoff right now. Mm-hmm. In times of scarcity, I don't know if I mentioned that, but you're wired to, you better get it while you can. Food, mate,
rest,
everything. You better get it when you and your body starts to adapt to that environment because it's been going on for so long. So it's like, man, if you're tired, that's your body telling you something. You better get that rest. You see some food, some fat, a lot of calories, fat, sugar, a lot of energy. Whatever, you better get that. You better eat it. Mm-hmm. Now physiologically you're like that, and mentally you're like that. You're wired that way. So my point, hyperbolic discounting. All that is choosing the short-term payoff over the long-term payoff. Oftentimes, when the long-term comes, you regret your short-term payoff decision.
Most of the time.
Right, yeah. So it's a spectrum. There's some things are more or less detrimental. So discounting is when you choose that short-term payoff. You can trace back all your success and failures to making that short-term payoff decision over the long-term payoff. But here's the thing. Here's my point. The odds are when you say it's not easy, this is a fact. It's not easy because you're not. Why? You have to learn. You have to be trained out of discounting, hyperbolic discount. You got to be trained out of it in one way or another, whether it's from somebody, from your environment you're in, Mm-hmm. Like if everyone's eating healthy around you, it's very unlikely that you're going to be like, oh, this is how you do it? Okay, I'm going to not do it. It's really unlikely. So you can get trained by that way, by your environment. But the point is you have to be trained out of this way of thinking because you're wired for it. And all it is the short-term payoff versus the long-term payoff. Like I said, you got to pay that price somewhere. You might as well pay the price short-term.
Pay now.
And get the benefits for the long-term, rather than discount. But we're wired against it, so that's why it's not easy. But train yourself out of it, man.
You know how you train yourself out of it?
Discipline.
Get after it.
Get after it, yeah.
All right.
It's true, though. It's absolutely true. Speaking of instinct, is it possible to train instinct? And can we trust it wholly in fighting and in leadership?
Well, first of all, instinct is it's like a voice, and it's a voice that you can listen to, and it's a voice that you should listen to. And you have to get to know your instincts, right? You have to get to know them. You have to know how accurate they are and which ones you should listen to and which ones you shouldn't listen to. And it's real. Like with fighting, it's very obvious. With fighting, you train to a point that your instinct knows what to do. So if someone gets in digging for an underhook on you, you swim to defend that underhook. If someone gets the underhook, boom, you put on the whizzer, right? Those are just instincts, and it's good. And it's good to have those instincts. It's perfect. Now, sometimes, even in fighting, your instincts are actually wrong. And I'll give you a very good example of this is rolling with a guy by the name of James Nielsen. Have you rolled with James before?
Many.
Okay, so James, black belt's been training forever. He's got a different jiu-jitsu, weird jitsu. It's weird. It's different. And the thing that you have to remember when you're rolling with James is that your instincts are likely wrong. It's crazy, but your instincts are likely wrong. And I know that's a blanket statement, and it's actually true. For instance, he wants you to pass guard and get across side. He wants you across side, which is crazy in jiu-jitsu. So your instinct to get past his guard and get across side and dig in deep with head control on him and having his arm, that's what he wants you to do, because he has a whole series of moves that he does from there. Now, much like we were talking earlier about a long, lanky guy that does moves that no one's used to, James does moves that people are not used to. And the moves that he does capitalize on your instinct.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when you trap his head from across side and you want to put your arm there and you put it there and that's your instinct, he wants you to put his arm there because he's going to get a hold of it, trap it, and he's got a sweep or an arm lock that he's going to set up from there. So that's the thing. You have to recognize, and you can't just blanket obey your instincts all the time, because sometimes your instincts are going to be wrong. That's the way it is. And it is definitely the same thing in leadership. And when using instincts in leadership, the first thing that you kind of have to do is you have to become aware of your instincts, and you have to pay attention to them and pay attention to what you're thinking and paying attention to what your instinct is and note your instinct, and then look at the post-mortem and see if your instinct was correct or incorrect. And then you've got to see how often you were right with your instinct and how often your instincts were wrong, or what your natural biases are. For instance, you got some people that are their instinct is too positive, right? Oh, we'll be able to get this done. Mm-hmm. And how often are you right about getting it done? And then you got some people that are too negative. Their instinct is too negative. Like, we'll never be able to get this done. We shouldn't even go. No, maybe you're wrong there. There's some people instinctively, they trust people too much. So they go, oh, Echo, I know he's going to handle it. I'm just going to give him the project. And he's going to run with it. He's got it. And there's some people that instinctively don't trust enough. And they go, man, Echo's not going to be able to handle this. I got to micromanage him. And so those are examples of learning what your personal instinctive biases are so that you can calibrate them correctly. And that way you can adjust your biases and you can mitigate their impact, and you can utilize them and give credence to them and understand them and utilize them to the best of your ability. And both leadership and fighting, both of them, as the more you do and the more you pay attention to your instincts, the better they're going to both become. Now, that being said, there's another kind of instinct that you need to be on the lookout for, and this one is a liar. This one is a saboteur. Well, this one is a backbiter. And like the devil himself, he's a shapeshifter. He's going to disguise himself and make you think he's got your best interest in mind. But he doesn't. This is the instinct that says, you've had enough. This is the instinct that says, you've given it your best shot. You can stand down. You can back off. You can take a knee. This is the instinct that says, you can rest now. Do not listen to that instinct. Do not listen. That instinct is a liar and wants to bring you down. That's the instinct that's a defense mechanism. It wants to give you an out, a place to run to, a little place of sympathy, an amnesty, a little place of amnesty where everything is forgiven, where all these failures can gather together in comfort and drown their sorrows in lies and in deception. And they tell each other. And they'll tell you, you did the best you could. No, they'll say the deck was stacked against you. And they'll say it's not your fault. And they'll tell you it's okay to stop. It's okay to settle. It's okay to give up. And that is the instinct you need to fight. You need to push back, to smash into the ground. Do not take the easy way out. Do not give up based on instinct. If you are forced to stand down, to retreat, so that you can rebuild and reattack, so be it. But make that decision based on logic, not on the instinct of surrender and defeat. And you need to train that instinct. Your instinct. Train it to say, get up. Go. Fight on. And if that is what you become, if that becomes your fundamental reaction to adversity, if that becomes your gut instinct, then you will overcome just about anything that stands in your path. And I think that's about all I've got for tonight. So, thanks to all of you for listening to this podcast and for supporting the podcast. And now, Echo is going to tell you how to do that in the most efficient way.
Yes, the most efficient way.
Yes.
Well, we'll start with an efficient way. We'll say that.
Okay.
Anyway, Amazon, click through. Anytime you shop at Amazon, try to remember, if you can, go through the website, click on the Amazon link. Then do your shopping.
Yeah. And by the way, it may seem small. We get a little tiny percentage, yep. But it is true. When you add all those little small percentages together, it provides us with something to help us out with the podcast.
Yeah, very supportive.
So it's very supportive. It may not seem like a big deal, but as a group, it's very supportive and it's very helpful. So
yep. And even,
don't feel like you're not doing anything. You are absolutely supporting the podcast.
Yep, agree. And that is, factually true.
Indeed.
A thing to help you with that, kind of make it even more, well, I guess more official. It's a cool little way. Trooper tool. Amazon, Jocko Podcast, Trooper tool, Chrome extension for Amazon. Just go on the website. It'll say a little thing, Trooper tool, Chrome extension. Click on that, kind of downloads this little extension, goes on your browser. It automatically supports the podcast when you shop through Amazon. So you don't even have to remember to click through the website. You don't have to go to the website anymore after that. It does it automatically. And you got the tool too. It's pretty cool. It's official.
And it helps.
Helps, yeah.
Helps with what we're doing right here.
Yep, very much. And then, of course, you gotta support yourself. I think some good supplements, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of not good supplements out there. Onnit supplements, the best. It's not even really a debate anymore, really.
No, I don't think it's a debate anymore.
Given what we're trying to do, what all of us are trying to do here in the group.
If you're in the game, there's no real debate.
Yeah. So it's not like you're not gonna find Power Gainer 5,000 chocolate protein tub of powder. It's not that. It's like legit supplements. Alpha Brain, nootropics, proven. They got all the literature on there too, by the way. Krill oil, the best quality, eco-friendly, produce. Anyway, it's the best supplements by far. Onnit.com/Jocko. You can get 10% off, so you support yourself as well.
Shroom Tech.
Shroom Tech, yes.
Recommended.
Highly recommended. Highly recommended. I told a story last time about the krill oil in joints, about my process. Bro, I'm telling you, the krill oil, even if you don't even realize it, I didn't even realize it, but after a while when you take it, you're like, man, it's good.
I feel good.
I feel real good. Shroom Tech for, if you're getting after it, high intensity stuff for, any kind of prolonged period, that's going to help you. Notably.
You feel it.
You'll feel that one. Helps you utilize oxygen better in your muscles, something like that. I'm not the scientist behind it, obviously. You can read about it if you want, but that one's a good one. Anyway, check out all the supplements. They're 10% off, and they're all legit. And I don't know if a Warrior Bar is even a supplement, but it's a bar.
It's a food, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a food. It's good, though. Check that one out. Rest assured you'll like how it tastes.
Do yourself
Check it out.
that favor.
Yes. Those are some ways. Also, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, of course. If you feel like leaving a review, don't hesitate to leave the review. Just leave the review. Just do it. If you feel like doing it, you're like, I could say this about this whatever thing. Where you're like, I won't.
And you might be thinking, well, those guys aren't going to read it. No.
Yep.
I'm going to read it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to take some input. I'm going to be fired up. It's motivating when people are fired up and leaving reviews. It's a connection.
Yep.
And it makes me go, you know what? I'm going to get this thing a little bit harder.
Yep. When he's like, Jocko's very articulate. Makes Jocko want to be even more articulate. Right?
Yes, it does indeed.
It's like, man, do that. And, if you're
and it helps.
do that.
It actually helps the ratings or something with iTunes when there's more reviews. So, why do we want to have good ratings? So then it gets bumped up. Why do we want it bumped up? So more people listen to it. Why do we want more people to listen to it? Because we want more people getting after it. Yep. We want more people to do better.
Yeah.
I want more people in the game.
Yeah.
I want to get more feedback. I want to talk to more people. That's why.
When I see Brady Lanter at his jiu-jitsu class saying, I just got after it, told me he lost 30 pounds, takes jiu-jitsu now. That's what we want more of. That's what I want more
that's
of.
It.
And I'm assuming you want
that's
the same
it.
thing. That's why. So ultimately, it really comes down to that.
I'm definitely, I hate to use the word motivated, but I guess there is no other word. I am definitely motivated by the people that are making their lives better, that are the people that are getting better physically, by the people that are getting better mentally, that write me an email or send me a note that says, oh, had to use some flanking on my boss today.
Yep.
Got him.
Yep.
That is good to go.
1,000%.
That's what I like to hear.
When someone says, hey, Echo, can I use your and Jocko's likeness in a thing on my bulletin board for my students to employ extreme ownership? Can I do that? Just the fact that that's a question he wants to ask makes it.
Like I talked about today. You know what's interesting? So I talked about today. I didn't know about getting after it when I was 13 years old. Imagine somebody being in a classroom and being like, hey, you want to get after it? Here's what you got to do.
Yep.
Here it is. Here's a couple guys. They're getting after it.
Yep.
You know what? Why don't you get after it, 13-year-old boy, 13-year-old girl? Why don't you make something happen? You know what? You know there's people that do 500 pull-ups a workout? They don't do 28. 28 doesn't mean anything around here. Step up your game. So exposing the world so that people can do better, do more, be more. That's good to go.
Yeah, if you had more people being less abrasive, losing their temper less, exercising extreme ownerships, and discipline in all things.
Oh, yes.
pursuing freedom through discipline. That is a better place across the board.
You might even go so far as to say unmitigated daily discipline in all things.
Yep. So that's the ultimate goal. Also, subscribe to YouTube if you want. We'll add some more videos on there aside from just the podcast video. Add some more videos on there. And we have been.
And I think that we, not you, Echo, but we, the rest of us, I think we can motivate you more to make more videos. Because every time you make a video, like when you, not just a clip of the podcast, but when you make a legit video, I'm always like, yeah. And I think a lot of people say the same thing. And there's actually a lot of troopers out there that are making badass videos too.
Yes.
Who is that? Gene Roderick? Gene Roderick makes some killer videos. Yep. Can we put his videos on the Jocko podcast page?
I think I did. Dang, I haven't put videos on there in a while, but yes, we can.
We should
yes,
do that.
We will.
We should do that so that everybody can see all the trooper work that goes out there.
You know what it does too? In this small little way where, you know how, like, okay, you'll say some words. Mm-hmm. You'll say just word. You'll say what you say. And I take it a certain way. I'm like, dang, that really hit me. It resonated with me. Other people, other words might hit them harder or less hard or whatever. So if people have like video editing skills, you know, or they know how to video edit and stuff like that and put tracks and do that stuff, when they put it out, it is a representation of how those words hit them.
Yep.
You know, you make a decision to put a certain type of track behind what you're saying for a reason. So it's so interesting to see, dang, that's how that hit him, you know, in this feeling is how it hit him. And it's like, dang, you kind of get a different dimension of it.
It's cool too, because for me, I don't hear my words, right? I don't hear my words.
Right.
Then I hear my words with the same thing you're saying, like the way it's entering their brain. Because when you make a video, right? When you make a video, it's a reflection of what's going on in your mind.
Yeah.
And so, like some of those videos that Gene made, I was like, oh, yeah, it's taking me inside his head and what it appears to be from inside his head, which is awesome to hear and awesome to see.
Yeah. So
yeah, we should get those. And he had a couple that didn't go through the copyrighted material. I don't know if he took the wrong songs or something, but it was a bummer because some of those were awesome.
That's part of the battle right there, I think. But hey, you know, whichever.
But anyways, what I was gonna say is, I think the more people that are YouTube subscribers, I think the more motivated that you will personally get. That's my opinion. To make even more badass videos. That's my opinion.
Well, like, you think it might get like a competition? Who can make the better one?
No. I don't think that. I think you're inspired by these videos the same way I am that other people make. But I'm saying I think you will just be motivated more. The more people, like, you know, when you say a video has just been uploaded by Jocko Podcast and you know that it's going to 50,000 people, you'll be like, boom, click. Right. You'll start getting after a little bit more.
Yeah, it's true.
And personally, I want you to get after it more. That's one of my things.
The direct approach. I dig it. There's one, it was like one of the original ones that someone else made. I hate that I can't remember like the names of the people who did it, but it's the one, it was to the Pacific soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
It was one of the original ones.
Awesome.
Bro, I'll admit, I was drinking one night. Just
back
in front of him. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And that made you drink even more.
Bro, I was drinking some. I was playing that. I was like, bro, I'm feeling this so deeply right now. I played like literally like 8 to 12 times just in a row. Like, dang, this is so like, just because you see, they're clips from movies. Yeah. They're clips from this, and it's a mashup. And you know the music. And here's the thing: it's not like hardcore music. It's not. It's like, man, it's really good. And I think, like I said, that's like such a good way to see not only just your words, but how someone else heard them, interpreted them, and put them back out there.
It's awesome.
And you're like, dang, it's like a whole nother dimension. Anyway, yes, I'll get more on the YouTube for sure. I'm already more on the YouTube.
Yeah, you are.
But I'll keep it up. I'll do even more. That. Do some more. We'll do some different types.
I'll probably start making some videos soon.
Yeah.
No,
please,
I won't.
Please.
No, I won't. I can't do it.
Also, to support this podcast, in the event of you being in the mood to support this podcast, you can get some cool stuff. I think it's cool at jockostore.com. T-shirts, they have multiple layers to them. Not physically, psychologically, philosophically. They have multiple layers to them. All of them. Some Easter eggs too. Shirts, travel mugs, and bumper stickers. Now, new stuff that's available right now. Well, may or may not be available. It might be sold out. But they could be on back order.
You can order it.
You can order it, yes. New stuff. Rash guards. I thought it was for jiu-jitsu, but they're for lifting, like CrossFit especially. Running is a good one, like biking. Basically, everything that rash guards, spandex type shirts are for. Surfing, I think primarily, really. But lifting, whatever. And of course, jiu-jitsu. Rash guards, they're cool. Check them out. If you like them, boom, get one of those or two or whatever to support. And stickers. And then jiu-jitsu patches and just patches, you can sew them on. They're iron-on, but you sew them on as well for, put on your bag, what have you. Jiu-jitsu patches for your gi, that stuff. New things coming within the next, week or two. Women's tank tops.
I think they're actually live pretty soon.
I think so, too. But yeah, there it is. All good support that way.
Yep, and that's all awesome. We appreciate that support. That is a cool way, to help us out with what we're doing. Also, another thing just came out is a little something, little Jocko white tea. If you want to get some of that, it's pomegranate, and it's I don't know where it came from. I don't know when I started utilizing it, but I've utilized it for quite some time now. It's live on Amazon.
It is live.
It's live on Amazon. So Go ahead, get on there, order it, and get your white tea on. That's what when you see me drinking it here, if I'm not drinking Alpha Brain, I'm drinking white tea. And white tea is definitely what I'm drinking during the show. So give it a try. You might dig it. It's available on Amazon. You could probably click through. Unless you have the Trooper tool, then you can just hit it. And get some of that Jocko white tea, which you've heard me talk about for a long time now. Here it is. So, also, by the way, I wrote a book with my brother Leif Babin. If you want to check that out, actually, y'all brought it back onto the bestseller list, which is awesome, and we appreciate it. Go ahead, pick up a copy if you don't have one. If you got people in your life that you want to help them get in the game, there you go. Just a little something for you. Cost you $20, and you help somebody.
Dig it.
So that's good. And of course, if you haven't heard yet, October 20th and 21st in San Diego, California, we're having the Extreme Ownership Muster. 2 days of Get Some. With Leif and me live, going deep on combat leadership on the battlefield, in business, and in life. Come and get it. The amount of troopers that are signed up, it's going to be killer to have everybody together. All different industries, companies, businesses, firefighters, police officers, the whole gamut of people that are in leadership positions that want to learn, that want to share, that want to get better. So come on out to the muster. Extreme Ownership. Come and get it. And as always, if you want to keep on kind of kicking it with Echo Charles and myself, we are all up on the interwebs. Twitter, boom. Instagram, yep. Facebooky, we're there. Echo is at Echo Charles, and I am at Jocko Willink. And finally, to you. First, those in uniform, military, police, fire, those of you holding the line. Train hard. Be vigilant. Be aggressive. And be balanced in your approach. And also, To those of you that are out there working, and I travel the country and I spend time with you folks as well. You folks that are out there working, that are building, that are making things, from construction workers building roads and bridges and buildings, to those of you building or remanufacturing engines or building cars or trucks, to those of you that are out there building the next generation of technology, hardware and software that's going to make life better. I meet with you all the time. I see what you're doing. The builders, the makers. Thank you for working your ass off to build the world and everything in it. And to all you troopers out there living life, driving and grinding and doing the work. Give it everything you got. Put your head down, grit your teeth, and get after it. So, until next time, this is Echo and Jocko out.